Tucked between rolling hills and endless farmland sits Gerl, a sprawling walled city built like a fortress against the outside world. Inside a grimy, bureaucratic office, a little girl perches on a stool behind a towering counter. Still in shock, she grabbed the official's attention and begged, "Wait, can you say that again?" The man slams the point home again. She's not allowed to build a new house. Her shock flips to pure rage and she demands, right then and there, why this is happening. The official drops the truth. Her name is Chris, and then bluntly shuts down the idea that she's a citizen. He makes it crystal clear. Sure, anyone can step into Guerrero, but foreigners can't build their own houses. A spark of hope ignites as she asks, "So how do I become a citizen?" Her hope crumples the moment she realizes citizenship is out of reach for her. There's no way she can get it. The official rundown lays out a brutal, maze-like process that takes 3 whole generations just to finally earn residency rights. She can't wait. She blurts out, asking if she's allowed to hunt for a job in the city at least. He breaks it down. Getting hired is tough for foreigners too. No connections, no introductions, and suddenly the door won't open. The official stared at her, eyes wide with surprise, and a hint of doubt flickered across his face. She shoots down the idea of being an adventurer on the spot, insisting she's only ever taken guild jobs. Standing on her stool, she snaps that she's done trying to make this place her home. Fueled by fresh determination, she boldly declares she's signing up as an adventurer. She spins around and strides off from the counter, making the official stand there and stare after her. Her mind flashes back to Geralt's past, once a thriving paradise on the edge of the sea. When the labyrinth was finally uncovered, Purini exploded into a thriving metropolis overnight. Nervous as a thunderstorm, she steps up to the new counter and flashes her Adventurer's Guild card. She thrusts the card toward the official, ready to finish the registration and seal it for good. She spirals through why she came here in the first place, and can't stop thinking about her waiting companion, Peru-chan. In a quiet stable, a handsome dark brown horse stands in its stall, waiting patiently like it knows something big is coming. She sprints to the horse, coos his name like she can't believe he's there, and blurts out an apology for making him wait. She tugs the reins and marches him forward, cheering as they finally cross through the city walls. When she checks the time and realizes it's already evening, panic hits. She fears every table will be jammed at the ends. She leans into Pruchan and pushes the idea. Stay at a safe spot near the outer wall. At the stable, she and her horse run into 2 men who look genuinely worried. Shock flashes across her face as she demands to know why she isn't allowed to stay. "The guys warned us. You can't do it for safety reasons. Cities are terrifying, and you'll see why the moment you're in them." She cuts through their logic and snaps back that the countryside is way more dangerous. She spills terrifying stories about giant wolves hot on her heels, stalking her through a monstrous aguru. The stable owner makes it crystal clear. The real danger here isn't some ghost, it's bad adults preying on girls. He admits he can't book her a room, and for a split second she's left with 0 options. Feeling bad for her, he offers her a place right beside the manager's room. He and his companions swear they'll guard her with their lives and whip up fresh straw for her. Blindsided by how kind they are, she bursts into a wide, heartfelt smile and thanks them without hesitation. The men shot worried looks at that young girl and couldn't believe she was traveling alone like this. She stands in the stall with her horse, takes one last look around, and settles in like night is finally about to begin. She stands on a fresh bed of straw and declares, loud and proud, that her bed is finally ready. She takes a big bite, cheeks puffing as pure satisfaction spreads across her face. While her horse munches away, she blurts out a heartfelt apology and swears she'll buy fresh vegetables tomorrow. As she weighs it all, her smile fades, because she realizes the true threat isn't people at all, it's the monsters lurking in the dark. She's figured it out the hard way. Even in massive cities, the outer walls are where danger waits to strike. She can't shake the thought that defense magic is the only shield strong enough to keep monsters from tearing her world apart. If you don't have a magic skill, then don't panic. Magical paper is your next move. These disposable papers let you throw spells with barely any magical power at all. Since those papers cost a fortune, she always digs into her own stash and keeps her secret supply locked down tight. She narrows her focus, then charges her magic up, ready to pour it straight into the defense paper. A glowing barrier of light snaps around her, along with her horse and every last thing she's carrying. With a tiny soft pop, the enchanted paper crumbles apart, turning into shimmering specks of light. She lets out a resigned sigh. Every time, the paper vanishes in the blink of an eye. She grips a prized fan that's stuffed with precious magical papers. Uneasiness crawls over her the moment she starts thinking about what she's really facing. She suddenly realizes she made a huge mistake, thinking she could just slide into this city without a fight. A heavy, somber look settles on her face as she stares down her shattered plans, like everything she hoped for just broke in her hands. Her dream of renting a room and raising a whole house vanished in the blink of an eye. A ghostly white, hazy panel slices the screen. Then we're shoved straight into a memory from the past. A flashback slams into her, showing the moment her past life ends when a blade line cuts straight through her body. She vividly remembers waking up in a whole new world, so different from both Earth and Japan that it feels unreal. Abstract starbursts explode on the page, screaming the chaos of her rebirth in raw, violent color. When she turned 10, her mind snapped back into her past life, and the memories slammed into her like a tidal wave. After a brutal, bone-tiring journey, she finally stumbled into the city and made it there. She exhales, murmuring to herself that life always ends up exactly like this. Her horse nudges her softly, snapping her out of her deep, gloomy spiral. She shoots her companion a sly wink and promises she's totally not feeling down. She drags her fingers over her nose, then snaps into action with a fresh plan to save money and finally move on. Peru-chan, her sidekick for a whole year, guards her like she's his own daughter. The horse bumps her again like it's urging, "All right, time to finally get some sleep." She leans in and assures him, "Don't worry, I've still got money, and if we need to, I can sell the items." She leans into his warmth, smiles anyway, and vows she's not giving up, no matter what. As she slips into sleep, her ultimate dream screams inside her head, building her own house. The very next morning breaks bright and crystal over the rooftops. She stretches with a satisfied sigh, smiling because she finally slept like a dream. The stable owner rushes up to her with a worried smile, asking, "You all right this morning?" She quickly figures out she can't start breakfast with fire because it spooks the horses every single time. He tells her to hit the morning market. 1 copper coin is all it takes. As she turns to leave, he blares a warning, "Stay away from the north gate." She studies him with burning curiosity as he points out that the slum is right there. He spills how that dead, empty wasteland somehow turned into a shanty town, where the security was terrible and danger felt constant. She thanks him, totally shocked that a slum could exist in a city this massive. Right before they head out, she leans into her horse and mutters that she's gotta fix her look first. She fears they'll shut the door on her the second she shows up caked in dust. She shoots her hand to her saddlebags, ready to snatch up her cleaning supplies and get to work. She stands poised, draws in a breath, and instantly casts a spell to scrub herself clean. A shimmering surge of energy crashes over her as she hurls the cleanser spell. She smirks to herself, realizing how wonderfully handy it is to tuck her luggage right into the spell. She drops to the ground and briskly fixes her spotless boots and perfectly neat clothes, like nothing ever happened. With laser focus, she checks every tiny detail of her look until it's absolutely flawless. She strikes a bright, upbeat pose and proudly announces that her preparations look amazing. She tells Parachan she's heading to the market first, and then straight to the guild. She storms into the market and gets hit, hard, by the bright stalls and the smell of fresh produce. She weaves through the roaring crowd on a busy street, a tiny figure lost in the towering chaos of the city. For just 1 measly copper coin, she grabs a sandwich, then immediately wishes it were bigger. Her gaze snaps to a street stall, 5 veggie skewers stacked up for the same price. She snaps up a skewer, lifts it high, and grins so bright it practically glows with joy. A friendly vendor in suspenders eyes her with a teasing grin, like she's already in on the joke. He warmly leaned in and asked the little miss, "So, is this your very first time in Grell?" Her eyes sparkle the moment she confirms it. This is her very first time in a real big city. The vendor flashes a grin and launches into a non-stop story about the city of Guerrero. A compass rose flicks the spotlight onto Labyrinth City. Then Geralt steps in, and the place splits into 5 massive districts. From above, a massive circular walled city towers into view, split cleanly into its distinct sections. More details spill out about the city itself, its pricey central and southern districts standing out like a target on a map. The northern end of the city is basically a bustling downtown strip, packed with inns built for adventurers. A grim lineup of shacks clings to the outer wall, and just like that, the notorious slum district comes into view. To the east, the cozy private homes slide aside, and a bustling commercial district hands everything over to a roaring port town. The traveler steps through the west side. It's the main gateway from the other regions. Chris, a young girl with curious eyes, watches a horse-drawn carriage roll by and wonders, could this be a shared ride? She discovers that these carriages aren't for nobles at all. there for common folk, because owning a personal horse comes with pricey permits. With grit in her eyes, she makes her decision. She will not become a resident under these terms, no matter what. She spots a clever workaround and realizes she can just lead Parachan around herself, giving the horse the exercise he needs. Her eyes blow wide when she spots that massive building, and she can't help but wonder, is this really where she's supposed to go? As she stands before the towering Adventurers Guild headquarters, everything inside her surges, like the moment finally hits. The camera sweeps over the Guild's grand hall, and that polished floor gleams like a runway beneath the bright lights. Chris Murmur stared at herself, and the instant it hit her, this headquarters was massive beyond belief. She strides up to the receptionist and bluntly says she wants to file a relocation notice. The receptionist, long blonde hair cascading down her shoulders, freezes for a split second, staring at the request like it caught her off guard. Chris flashes her guild card as the receptionist drops her apology and nods, agreeing to process the request. The woman checks the card name, then leans in and demands, "So you're really Kristnina, right?" Chris tells her how she hauled in by the highway, fresh from her last job back in the town of Sursud. With a flick of her hand, the receptionist taps a magical crystal orb, and it flashes, confirming Chris's information is spot on. It turns out these spirit trees aren't just mystical. They're wired up like a living network, acting as the world's database. A real crystal device lets you swipe in and pull data instantly, basically like a contactless payment machine, but for secrets. Turns out this whole system only stays alive for people blessed with a rare jackpot skill. The receptionist's eyes widen as she blurts out that Chris's rank is about to skyrocket from copper to silver. Leaning across the counter, she demands, "Tell me, did Chris come to take on that deadly Purini labyrinth?" Lower-ranked adventurers keep slipping into high-ranked parties, chasing one dream as they dive into the labyrinth together. After Chris says she's looking into other jobs, the receptionist steers her straight to the Western District branch. Chris finally figures out she won't be around much, so he quickly asks how to get into the free books and archives. The receptionist points her to the second floor, then warns her that the archive comes with a brutal price for every scrap of info. Chris's smile fades as he realizes, right at the headquarters, that this kind of information doesn't come cheap. They pitch a cheaper option: grab drinks at the cafe and use it like a setup to trade info before the next adventure. A warm receptionist steps forward, introduces herself as Anna, and offers to help like it's the most natural thing in the world. Anna tells Chris she'll warn him ahead of time if anything will cost money, and Chris eagerly accepts her promise. With a hard stare, Anna snaps at Chris to stick to gathering information inside the guild for his safety. Motherly worry crept in as she questioned whether Chris was really 13, despite his small stature. She nudges Chris to eat properly, and Chris grins back, cheerful, a little flustered, totally on board. Chris strides into the guild's tavern district, pumped to put Anna's advice to work. Two brave male adventurers sit down at a table, totally oblivious as a girl closes in toward them. Chris swings his arm toward the guys getting a fresh round of ale, all while the gentlemen at the table settle in. 3 huge wooden mugs, brimming with frothy ale, sit there waiting, ready to be handed to the adventurers. Sitting in with the guys at HQ, Chris leans in and asks what kinds of requests they can make there. She discovers that big-shot jobs, like hunting rare monsters or escorting valuable goods, aren't rare at all. The adventurers grin and tell them, "Look, we're off duty today. Good jobs go first come, first served." They stress loud and clear. In their line of work, you can't afford to slack off. One day off could cost everything. Chris leans in, eyes locked on her, then tells her plan. She's hunting in the forest just outside the city walls. One of the guys blurts out, "Wait, are you really gonna be safe out there alone?" With a confident, beaming grin, Chris cheers that she'll be fine, because she's got her draft horse. The men clock that her horse has some kind of special power, and Chris chimes in that it can even sense monsters. One of the adventurers lays it out clearly. The forest falls under the Western District's control. Adventurer Kane pulls out a tiny scrap of paper and starts scribbling down whatever it is she's decided to record. He shoves the note into her hands and says, "I've got a buddy posted in the Western District." While Chris reads the note, he starts describing his friend Ife, straight out of the Kijin tribe. Canary tells her, "Don't worry, it's nothing weird," and brushes it off as a simple plea for Ife to step in and help. The men from headquarters flat out tell her, "We can't help you directly," and then warn her, "Don't push yourself too hard." One of them casually drops that paper costs a fortune in this world. Chris's face erupts in a bright, radiant smile as she offers them her heartfelt thanks. The 2 men are clearly moved by her real gratitude, and they smile back with warm, kind hearts. Chris steps out of the guild and strides off, leaving the two helpful adventurers behind. As she strolls through the city streets, she can't stop thinking about how Anna and Kane showed up for her. Kind, helpful, and right when it mattered. She checks the sky and gasps, noon already. So she bolts off, determined to grab an inn for the night. With a fresh goal blazing in her mind, she pushes forward through the roaring city streets. After locking onto her route, she decides to slip in a small detour toward the northern district. A tall, narrow window slashes through the northern district, and suddenly you're staring into ramshackle alleyways choking on clutter. Chris tilted his head up, staring at the patched-up buildings, their chaotic, cluttered mess screaming trouble. She refuses to get intimidated. Her face lights up with a huge, excited grin as she blurts out that this is gonna be fun. She drifts through the place, chin lifted high, soaking in every weird, gorgeous detail of the architecture. Her eyes shoot up to a shaky stone bridge, strung between two buildings like it could snap any second. With a worried stare, she points out that the bridge looks like it could buckle at any second. She can't stop staring at those shaky, crumbling buildings and bridges, like they're one bad gust away from collapsing. Staring at the crumbling stonework, she can't help but wonder, did her house-building skills train her to spot every flaw like this? Her architectural survey gets yanked to a stop the moment she realizes she's got a far more urgent job, finding an inn. Tugging along with her trusty horse, Parachin, she relives the advice the farmers at the market had just shouted to her. They filled her in on a family-run spot huddled near the outer wall, where the beds were cheap and the price didn't bite. Her eyes flare with excitement the moment she spots the sign, and she blurts out that she's finally found the place. A battered wooden sign swings over the doorway, flashing the name, Spirits Perch in ***. As she rides in with her horse, a warm, kind-faced older woman steps up and demands to know what brings her here. With a sharp, hopeful grin, Chris announces, "I'm here for the long haul, I'm staying for good." The innkeeper's shock snaps away the moment he realizes Chris is just a customer. Then he breaks into a bright, cheerful welcome. The woman's face tightens with worry, and she blurts out that it has to be brutal for someone that young to be forced to travel alone. She orders Chris to tie her horse anywhere, then grins and swears her son, Loki, will handle everything. The innkeeper guides Chris upstairs, and both of them wear bright smiles as they head straight for the room. The room is bare bones but spotless. There's a bed, a desk, and a window staring back at you. Right before she leaves, the innkeeper tells her to ring anytime she needs help, and Chris smiles and thanks her. The door shuts, and the second it clicks, every ounce of her journey comes crashing down. She lets out a heavy, defeated sigh. She faceplants on the bed, a blissful grin lighting up her face as she blurts out that she can finally rest. Lying in bed, she stared at the ceiling and replayed every mile of the wild journey she'd carved from her remote hometown. A sudden flashback kicks off, revealing that the birthright is usually carried out on brand new babies by a priest. This rite rips open a person's fate, showing the name they're given by the world and the exact skills a god, or something divine, pours into them. An eerie, abstract picture bursts with magical, sparkling energy, the exact kind that erupts during the sacred rite. A text box pops up to spell it out. Skills let people pick up related abilities way faster than everyone else. By the time they hit 15, almost everyone has somehow picked up 3 totally different skills. She finally admits she'd been nameless for 10 whole years, because the priests never once showed up at the frontier. In a brutal flashback, her father hurls a sack at her and roars that she's nothing but useless. Cowering in fear, the young girl can only mumble an apology to her furious father. He snarls that if her skills end up worthless, he'll auction her off like property. They basically say some skills, like floor cleaning, are treated as straight-up useless trash skills. Her village used to be a penal colony, an outcast town where people were dumped just because they had skills the world didn't want. Her mother died when she was still little, slipping away from childbirth and never coming back. After her mother died, her ice-cold father turned even crueler, and the way he treated her grew colder by the day. A young girl's face fills the screen, her eyes heavy, her smile gone, like her heart is drowning in thoughts she can't escape. A flashback spills out the one moment she could actually shut off the pain, when she was nursing a local witch. One random day, her quiet life shattered when a traveling priest showed up in her remote village. She took her seat for the birthright ceremony while the priest led everything, and her father watched, eyes locked on her. The priest declared her name, Chris Nina, and then revealed her insane talent. She could build houses like it was magic. The moment she told him, her father's face twisted into pure disbelief and burning disgust. Rage detonated in him as he screamed that the skill was nothing but a dead, worthless dud. The concerned priest spun toward the terrified young girl and demanded to know if she was okay. The brutal shock of that moment shattered her world and forced a realization so deep it left her forever changed. Later, curled up alone on her bed, it finally hit her. She understood the truth she'd been suspecting for ages. She jolted awake to a wild truth. She'd been reincarnated. Then her past life name hit her like lightning, Kurisunina. Her father's icy threat to sell her if her skill failed kept slamming back into her mind. Fear hit her first, then right on its heels, determination snapped into place. She felt it in her bones. There was no way she could stay in that house another minute. Desperate to escape, she begged the visiting priest to whisk her out of there. She stared into this brutal new world, where power meant everything and monsters called the shots. Even with just one skill, she couldn't stop herself. She trusted her memories to carry her through anything. And she had one more ace up her sleeve, the secret she'd learned straight from a witch. With a sly grin, she fanned out a deck of blank cards and revealed her secret weapon like a magic trick. She blurted out her scheme to craft and sell magical paper, calling it the can't-miss way to rake in money. She told him you don't need talent. You can basically hack it by memorizing the patterns and making the paper. Still, this method demanded an insane amount of time and brutal effort to get everything perfectly right. A memory flashes of her fighting through brutal training, yet failing again and again until it feels like she'll never make it. But she was sure that if you kept pushing hard enough, anyone could eventually crack the code and master the craft. She dove into that detailed, repetitive work and instantly turned it into the perfect way to burn the hours. Soon, she finished a perfect pile of 10 magical paper sheets, one by one, like every step had to be just right. So she decided that was plenty, and she started whipping these up for her own stash, too. Her personal papers were that clever little design the witch made, small, special, and perfectly handy. With one blazing goal locked in her head, she threw herself into hard work, gripped every coin she could save, and vowed to leave town for good. Her mind raced ahead to that brutal long road, and she started seriously weighing whether to buy a carriage. A jolt of pure revelation hit her. What if a carriage wasn't just transport, but a home you could roll anywhere? If she could call it a house, she could finally tap into her one-of-a-kind skill and put it to work. She remembered when that witch tracked her down and demanded she repair an ancient lumber storage building. At first, she was completely helpless. She'd never faced a repair this complicated in her life. Her face twisted into deep thought, like she couldn't trust a single thing about the task ahead. Then she spotted a tiny mouse darting across the ground just a few steps away. A lazy thought slipped into her head. Did that tiny creature really live in there? So for the mouse, it wasn't some mystery at all. The storage was its home. The instant she clocked it was a house, everything in her world snapped into place, like reality flipped. As soon as her skill kicked in, her body sprang into action on its own, snapping every piece of the structure back into place flawlessly. She finally got it once she spots something in clocks. That's a house, her power kicks in. Back in the present, she realized she could tweak that old carriage fast as lightning. Her face lit up like fireworks as she blurted out that this new idea was absolutely brilliant. With fresh purpose blazing in her chest, she announced it was finally time to start earning real money. She dashed up to the Grand Magic Guild, her hopes soaring that someone would finally pay top price. At the counter, she slid her homemade papers across to the male receptionist. The man leaned in and demanded, "Do you have the magical inscriber or the mage skill?" The moment she said she didn't have it, his face twisted into full judgment, cold, dismissive, and done with the conversation. He tossed her a sneering bid of just 3 silver coins, so low it made her gasp in disbelief. The man flashed a smirk like, "Go on, at least take a look at the product before you decide." Rage flared in her as she snapped that anything made by someone who lacks skill is worthless. She swore that every town she'd been to before always snapped up her papers without a single hitch. She didn't take no for an answer. She marched straight to the Adventurers Guild headquarters, rejection be damned. She burst through the doors and shouted for Anison, practically vibrating with excitement to sell her magical paper. She laid it out. This magic guild tried to rip her off and pay her way less for her work. Anna snatched up one of the papers and stared at the stunning, perfectly drawn patterns, instantly blown away. With her confidence back on full blast, Chris grinned and said it was time to start negotiating. Before long, Watts, the guild's main appraiser, caught up, popped in, and introduced himself with confidence. Watts leaned in and scrutinized the papers, and the more he read, the more his eyes lit up with real intrigue. He called every single one of them outstanding, and when he dug deeper, he couldn't believe it. Even advanced magic was hiding in the mix. Anna demanded his final verdict. and he snapped back that not a single complaint crossed his mind. Once the quality got verified, Chris leaned in and said it was time to ditch the testing and jump straight to pricing. Watts threw out the numbers for the beginner, intermediate, and advanced spell papers. Chris immediately clocked it. These prices still felt ridiculously low for what they were worth. Watts laid it out. Selling through town shops would slice the profits even harder. He added that the commercial guild hits non-members with even steeper taxes. Chris shot that idea down fast, because if she was a guild member, her taxes would drop. Watts couldn't help it. He was blown away by her razor-sharp business instincts, and he straight-up called her a smart one. He shrugged it off like it was obvious, and Anna's knowing smile told him he was right. Then he pushed the idea that her deliveries should become official, an ongoing, officially designated request. Chris snapped to it. This was the kind of deal that could lock in steady income for good. She didn't even blink. She practically shouted that she was in. She leaned forward with wide-eyed excitement, bowing over the table like she couldn't believe her luck as she eagerly accepted that incredible offer. Her face snapped from surprise into sharp, thoughtful focus, like she was locking in on a serious decision. She demanded an exemption clause, just in case sickness or other surprise emergencies struck. Watts nodded immediately, stunned by just how sharp and ready she was. He snapped orders to his staff to slam the contract paperwork into action right away. Later, Chris and Anna slid into a booth for drinks, while a waitress dropped them off one round at a time. Anna poured out her heartfelt gratitude to Chris, grateful he'd shown up to do business with them. She admitted their relationship had soured, because the Magic Guild was straight-up price-gouging them. Ine told everyone that half the adventurers out there swear by magical papers to get their jobs done. Chris nailed it. This had to be because of the local underground labyrinth. Anna said the paper is the key to saving energy and slipping out of danger alive. Chris couldn't help but wonder, should she double down on making more barrier paper? Anna argued that support magic, especially body enhancement, would be insanely useful. Watts slipped back in, grinning and agreeing. Those support papers would fly off the shelves because it's all about the adventurer's real skills. He made it crystal clear. Even with all that, they're still desperate for serious offensive magic. He told us that even the labyrinth's top floors can spit out monsters that hit like monsters from nightmares. When the monsters finally swarm, they've got to unleash advanced magic or it's over. For her very first bonus, Watts went public and promised the guild would pay every last one of her taxes. Chris was totally speechless. He couldn't believe the generosity because this deal felt almost unreal. They told her right away her arrival was pure luck because the Magic Guild had cut them off. Watts leaned in and swore to her they wouldn't shove her into staying in the city for good. He told her she could always count on him, or Anna, for advice on anything at all. Anna winked at her like a secret smile and made it clear their help wasn't only about paper. Chris thanked her with heartfelt sincerity, and they both flashed warm smiles back at her. Anna told Chris she'd be the one he could count on from now on, handling the supplies. With a shaky breath, Chris finally confessed she had one more thing to ask. Anna sat there patiently while Chris talked her through it, how she wanted to snag a used carriage. Anna beamed and pitched a craftsman named Goris, then handed over a letter of introduction like it was their golden ticket. A woman points out that Garris's workshop, where they strip old wood, should be built to handle carriages. With the letter of introduction clutched in his hands, Chris can't shake the feeling that this is a huge step forward. She fires off the question, "Chris, did you check in at the Western District Guild?" She snaps Chris back to reality. Bronze-ranked adventurers have to take on a general request every 2 weeks. If she didn't, she'd be labeled a rogue, and that's when Chris finally snapped, realizing she'd totally forgotten. Cornered into it, she marches into the Western District Adventurers Guild branch. Inside, Chris strides up to the receptionist, and her eyes widen like she's shocked to see him. While Chris studies the quest board, a horned man sits nearby and fixes her with a watchful stare from his table. He slams his mug down with a loud clatter, then springs up from his seat. Chris slams back into the room, eyes blazing as he studies the job listings pinned to the wall. After weighing every option, she finally commits. She grabs her gear and chooses the herb-gathering quest. Out of nowhere, the huge man towers over her and demands, "Are you Chris?" A tense split panel freezes their faces the moment they lock eyes for the very first time. She steps up and declares who she is, but her eyes stay sharp and nervous as that towering presence looms over her. He shoots out a blunt remark about how insanely tiny she is, then leans down to get a better look. Her face twists into a hilariously furious fury mask, like her indignation just exploded out of her. The man's jaw drops as her sudden, Savage reaction hits him like a punch. Chris glares up at him, eyes narrowed to pure, furious annoyance. She grumbles that staring up at him with her neck craned is starting to hurt like crazy. With a furious little huff, she snaps her back to him and shuts him out completely. She yanks the herb gathering request off the board with zero hesitation. As she storms off, he blurts out in shock, "Wait, hold on." He rushes to explain that Kane told him to jump in and help her the moment she was in trouble. She hauled herself to the counter and told Yuria, the receptionist, to get started on her herb quest right away. With a stone-cold stare, she tells Yuria to report that man as suspicious. He fights back hard, swearing up and down he was only tracking her down like they told him to. The receptionist keeps her cool and calls the horned man, Eve, by name. Yuria leans in and gently scolds Eve, reminding him that his arrogant tone is what makes everyone squirm. Eve takes in every word, and realization hits his face like a sudden spotlight. His voice turns gentle as he apologizes, and he calls her Christiane with a softness that cuts right through the tension. He straight up admits his behavior was immature, and she agrees that she needs to apologize too. Once the mix-up was finally sorted, Yuria leaned in and wished Chris the best as he went to tackle his work. Ife asks if she's really leaving right now, then she drops the truth. She's got other plans running straight until morning. He demands a talk, and she grudgingly gives in, like she's forced to admit she's fine, even though she doesn't really feel that way. Later at the workshop, she steps up with zero hesitation and declares she'll build a house carriage. Gory spots her official guild letter, and the moment he reads it, he knows she's dead serious. Chris flashes a confident grin, tells him it'll all work out, and casually drops the real twist. She's a pro at building houses. Goris, clueless about the trick, blurts out whether this skill can actually reshape a carriage or if it's just talk. Her certainty shot straight through him, and suddenly his curiosity flared, like a spark igniting in his eyes. Her resolve hit him hard, so he snapped his hand in a gesture and told her to follow him straight into the yard. They square up in front of a plain-covered wagon as he proudly lays out every item he's got for her to choose from. Gorse leans in and says he's got 2 bargain carriages, but the third one costs a fortune. Her eyes sparkle the moment she spots a massive, tough former cargo wagon sitting there. She blurts all excited, "Can I really buy it?" And he nods, confirming she can. Then he blurts out the real problem. How on earth is she supposed to move that huge vehicle? She leaned in and asked if she could do the modifications there, even offering to foot the cost for the space. He offers her his space and his tools for free on one condition. His apprentices have to keep an eye on her. With a grin, he practically bursts out that he's dying to see her rare skill in action. The very next morning, she rides up to Afe by the city gates on Peru-chan. She tugs the big draft horse forward, all set and braced for the quest, because their talk is already on schedule. I honestly couldn't believe it when she actually showed up for their meeting. She leans in and reminds him of the promise she made to him the day before. She leaned in and asked what he wanted to talk about, and he fired back with Kane's request. He'd watch over her. He breaks the gut-punching truth. A kid was kidnapped right around here, and it just happened. Chris leans in, face tight with worry, as he admits another kid is still missing, 6 whole months after the first report. Ife breaks it down. He volunteers as the watchman because the security team is stretched too thin. He adds that even top-tier adventurers like himself have to shoulder the responsibility of training the juniors too. He whips out his gold adventure card, and the sight of it leaves her and even the nearby guard completely stunned. The guards stare at him in awe because the legendary Cajun swordmaster has finally arrived. Ife waves them away, saying it's rare as hell to run into anyone who's this skilled. A flash of sudden realization lights up Chris's face the moment he hears himself speak. She told him to hold up for a second before they left, and he nodded right away. She strides right up to her massive horse, Parachin, and gets ready to swing into the saddle. With a quick, practiced hop, she slides into the saddle on his back like she's done it 100 times. She declares she's ready, right as Pruchin lets out a savage snort straight into Afez's face. I blurted out, panicked and furious, that he couldn't just spring up there the way she did. He's caught between embarrassment and fury, because no matter how hard he tries, he can't get himself onto that massive horse. He asks how she does it, and she laughs, admitting people swear she looks like a cicada climbing. He fights to hold in his laughter at the hilarious picture she paints. Tired of her teasing, he stomps his foot, throws his hands up like he's done, and then acts like he's walking out without her. He whips around with a grin, throws out a quick apology, and admits he laughed at her struggle. Chris just shrugs it off, unimpressed as he stares at his tribe's ridiculous physical power, still not buying the hype. As they ride along, She leans in and asks if all that free time means he just wrapped up some huge job. He tells them his party's racing to be the first to conquer the labyrinth's lowest level. But because of the rules, he's locked out from climbing back to that level for the next 2 months. She starts asking if everyone really plays by the rules, or if they're secretly in on it together, like collusion is baked into the whole thing. She stared at the idea of collusion like it was a foreign language, totally lost and baffled. She makes it clear, this isn't some random deal, it's an agreement made to guarantee fairness for everyone involved. He nods, fully taking in her explanation, and the two of them press deeper into the wilderness. They stride down a winding path, with a thick, dark forest looming on both sides. Suddenly, monstrous rats explode into the scene, and a Phoriax gets wiped out instantly with one brutal, powerful kick. The sheer power of his strike blasts the creature clean off its feet and hurls it flying through the air. Meanwhile, Chris kneels quietly by the trees, plucking fresh herbs straight off the forest floor. She can't help thinking how insanely safe she feels, while Ife keeps those monsters under control. He tells her it's dangerous, but she brushes him off and insists she's totally fine with Perachin staying there. I scoffed at her for trusting what he swears is nothing more than a horse. Chris realizes his dismissive jab has hit Perachin like a spark. Now she's seriously furious. She drops the bombshell. Her horse is no ordinary beast. It's got dragon horse blood coursing through its veins. Then she smirks and adds, even without my magic, I can squash these little monsters with my bare hands. She boasts that her grip strength and back muscles are rock solid. To prove it, she casually clamps down in her tiny hand and snaps the rat's neck without breaking a sweat. He stares at her and points out how wild her strength is. Then she shrugs like it's no big deal. She flexes and grins. Her solid core is the reason she can shoulder even the heaviest loads. He can't shake the thought, does her strength come from her bloodline? He straight up asks if she's got dwarf blood. He throws out a joke about that, and immediately gets hit with a furious retort. He leans in and asks if she's a half-blood, and she admits she truly has no clue. A sudden memory crashes in. Her human father comes to mind, and her mother is just this small, slender figure. Ife leans in, smiles softly, and listens like she truly gets every word of your story. He gently pats her head, smiling as he tells her explanation finally clicks. He drops the bombshell that he's half human too, and suddenly she sees him in a whole new light. Chris can't help but wonder, has Eve started acting like her protective older cousin? Two of them stand shoulder to shoulder in a quiet forest clearing, sunlight flickering through the leaves like it's cheering them on. With a bright grin, Chris beams and announces she's hauled in a mountain of materials. Ike proudly hands over the monster tails she's been waiting for, his prized proof that the creatures are truly gone. Suddenly, Afe and Perachin, the horse, jerk to alert attention, sensing an unseen presence lurking just out of sight. I just shot Chris a quick question about whether a monster's closing in, but he's not fully convinced. Seeing her horse stay calm, she figures the rider coming toward them isn't a threat. I pieced together the clues, and now I'm sure something not human is on the run, getting hunted by little monsters. A brilliant idea explodes inside Chris's head, hitting him like lightning. Her eyes light up with pure excitement as she blurts out, "What if it's a fairy?" With grit in her eyes, she snaps that they have to move, right now, to save that creature. She waves Eve's cautious warning off on the spot, swearing everything will be totally fine. Her whole life has been aiming at one moment, meeting a fairy, and that dream drives her straight into the woods. Huddled in the thick bushes, the group peeks through, and their eyes go wide at what's waiting for them. Chris juts a finger forward. He's already spotted the trouble's source lurking in the trees. A bunch of huge, looming birds trap a tiny, fluffy white chick on a branch, leaving it totally cornered. She freezes in confusion, staring at it like, "What is that?" only to realize it's just a tiny bird. Ife watches in shock, then blurts, "Wait, was that tiny bird the one they were hunting?" He orders Chris to rescue the bird while he squares up and handles the bigger attackers. Chris wears a soft smile and starts chirping, coaxing the tiny creature closer like she's calling its name. The tiny white bird with a long tail keeps a wary eye on her from its perch. She lets out a crushing sigh, convinced her attempt to befriend that wild creature just blew up in her face. To her shock, the bird exploded into the air with a single, determined flap of its wings. It drops softly onto a twig right in front of her, so close she can barely breathe, stunned beyond words. That adorable little creature bursts out with a bright, friendly chirp of purru. Overcome with delight, Chris blurts to herself, "It's insanely cute." A warm, knowing grin lights up her face as the truth clicks, and she can't help but smile. She tilts her head and smartly asks, "Are you a fairy?" Because whatever this thing is, it clearly gets every word she says. The bird only fires back with a string of harmless-sounding PPP chirps. Chris snaps that there's no point pretending he's just some ordinary bird. Her horse, Parachin, snorts like he gets it, as if he's quietly backing up her verdict. She quickly calms the brand-new Piraroo, assuring it that Parachin is a herbivore and that it won't hurt a single hair. When the chaos finally settles down, she turns to Ife and asks if she can take care of the creature. I'm telling you, I'm sure it's a stray fairy because there's not a single spirit anywhere nearby. She tells him it's fine to call it Dopey, and then explains that fairies are usually super easygoing. A fancy little panel spells it out in bold detail. Spirits are ultra-rare helpers of the gods, kin to the fairies. She notices the creatures alone and sweetly asks, "Want to come with me?" The fairy chirps back in total agreement. No hesitation, not even a blink. Chris can't believe how fast it moves. His shock slips out as he blurts out how quick it is. She can't shake the fact that this, straightforward, nature is freaking her out, and she knows she can't just walk away and ignore it. Nuzzling those soft feathers, she bursts with joy, because she's just made friends with a fairy. The whole scene shifts beneath a huge, gloomy sky, and you can practically feel time sliding forward. While they keep traveling side by side, she suddenly clocks it. Her new friend needs a real name, not a placeholder. Resting on her shoulder, the tiny creature chirps up at her the moment she asks what it's called. She pitches a naming game, and before the moment even settles, it snaps right back with a response to one of the sounds she makes. Now called Isa, she blurts out mid-journey, wondering if fairies even have genders. Isa playfully pecks at her, and she lightly scolds the little fairy for its mischief. She leaned into the year-old fairy's face and asked whether some spirit had cared for it before. ESA kicks things off by starting its tail the easy way, just zooming around all on its own. Then the little fairy spills how a brutal gust of wind swept her up, trapping her in pure misfortune. Chris hears the whole story and then bursts out laughing, because her new friend is a total klutz. Esau practically bursts with energy, swearing that its spirit protector will track it down someday. Chris can't help but admit it. Getting his spirit back would be the best thing for him, even if it hurts to want it. She blurts out the truth. She's always dreamed of talking to a fairy. With a tearful vow in her voice, she swears they'll take care of each other, right up until its spirit finally arrives. After grinding for what felt like forever, she finally racks up the cash she needs to kick her house carriage project into gear. She stands in front of that giant, solid wooden wagon, brimming with energy and ready to start the build of her wildest plan. Chris can't lie to herself anymore. When it comes to undercarriages, she's still a total beginner. A master craftsman beams at her for picking things up so fast, and she just flashes a humble smile, crediting everyone's advice. She lays out her careful game plan for studying the existing parts, then sharpening them until they're even better. Gazing over the blueprints, she locks in with her fellow craftsmen, and together they plot their next move. She vows to strip the carriage house of every ounce of weight, so it'll be as light as she can make it. An older, battle-worn craftsman leans in and hammers home one truth. You'd better build with pure strength, or monsters will tear you apart. The men huddle up and admit the brutal truth. They're still running short on materials for the upper structure. A hulking craftsman steps in with a warm smile and offers her his own wood at a price, so good it feels unreal. The workshop turns into a non-stop team-up. Everyone pitches in, sharing their skills and dropping knowledge like it's priceless. A warm smile bursts onto her face as she can't help thinking, man, this is an amazing place to work. With all the key pieces finally lined up, she's ready to kick off the assembly for real. She grins at her roaring coworkers and declares that it's time to seal the undercarriage for good. She tells them to keep a super close eye on her, because once she gets buried in her work, she completely forgets what's going on around her. She shuts her eyes tight, steadies her breath, and forces her magic-fueled power into her control. Her eyes burst open, and she shoots her hand forward. An overwhelming aura surges in as her power ignites. She casually hoists a gigantic wooden plank like it weighs nothing. Her special skill is fully online now. Her coworkers can only stare, jaw dropped, as she tears across the field with unreal speed. She senses a mysterious power, like another version of herself, driving her work with supernatural speed and razor-sharp efficiency. Her eyes burn with unshakable focus as she carefully assembles it piece by piece. The skill powers her up so hard, she can slam massive wooden pieces together all on her own. A brilliant burst of magical energy erupts, like a fireworks finale, signaling she's finally done with that brutal, complex task. Her house-building skills had done it. Every bit of the undercarriage was finally finished, standing there like a flawless proof of her power. She watches with a flash of worry, then leans in and asks her colleagues, Is the work actually good enough? A top craftsman leans in, scrutinizes every tiny detail, and confidently declares her work is flawless down to the last speck. They're stunned, speechless, and they admit her moves were so blazing fast they couldn't even track a single step. Everyone stares, blown away by her one-of-a-kind skill, because it somehow works even better than regular carpentry. She blurts out that being able to slap on 3-meter planks, all by herself, is straight-up mind-blowing. Their cheers fade into curiosity as they start grilling her about where her skills end. The lead craftsman gently scolds them and lifts Chris up as the shining example of hard work they should chase. She lights up with honest gratitude, telling them she truly learned so much working side by side with them. Once the undercarriage was done, she leaned forward, itching to kick off the very next stage of her project. After that delivery goes off without a hitch, Eve blurts out that he's starving, and then tells everyone, "I know the perfect place to eat." Chris and her fairy buddy, Isa, jump at his generous offer and can't wait to dig into a real meal together. As they stroll through town, she blurts out, half laughing and half hopeful, what kind of mouth-watering feast is waiting for them. Ife tells everyone the restaurant is just a branch, run by the mysterious Nihon group. Hearing her name, she froze dead in her tracks, and her bright smile instantly crumpled into pure, jaw-dropping shock. Her fist tightens at her side as she finally admits she's heard the rumors swirling about the tribe. A grim, troubled look spreads across her face as she finally registers the ominous name. An explanatory panel drops the bombshell. Some people are reincarnated with memories from their past lives. In this brand new world, these people have one shared name, the Nihon tribe. This name stuck around because somehow, for reasons nobody can explain, most of them are Japanese. A chilling flashback hits. She sees her own reincarnation unfold, right after that weird line slithered through her body. She figures the people standing around her right then might have gotten reborn too. A ghostly fetus floats in a sea of blinding light, and in Chris's head, a terrifying thought hits. Maybe he's not the only one who got reincarnated. She sits with the Nihon tribe's collapse in her mind, and that fall seals it. She's keeping her reincarnated status hidden for good. In a cozy little eatery, her companion Ife waves his hands like crazy, pushing her to take a bite of the mouth-watering meal he just ordered. A sizzling feast of Japanese comfort food, nikujaga, katsudon, and a mountain of stir-fried veggies hits the table in front of her, so good it practically makes your mouth water. Chris freezes, staring at the familiar dishes like she just saw a ghost, disbelief blazing across her face in a quick blush. Ife casually drops this bomb. The Nihon group is widely credited with bringing rice cultivation to the world, turning rice into a staple everyone counts on. Chris wears a somber face as she gently cuts him off, saying that in her experience, it's not this simple for every region. A brutal memory crashes back, her younger self hunched over, grinding plants like it was a chore she couldn't escape, scraping by on plain baked patties made with nothing but water. Back in the present, she raises a piece of tender meat with her chopsticks and sinks her teeth into her first bite. Eve leans in, her face tight with real concern, and asks him straight up what she thinks of the food he raved about. Hit by that rich, mouth-watering flavor, she breaks. Tears spill down her cheeks as she sobs. This food is insanely good. Her sudden raw emotional explosion catches the entire place off guard. An icy hush falls over the startled Eve and leaves the restaurant owner frozen, stunned, and utterly speechless. Choking back tears, she admits the meat is insanely tender, because this is the first time she's ever tasted something this juicy in her whole world. Ife, cheeks burning and drenched in sweat, begs her not to cry, completely stunned by how wildly intense her reaction is. The warm, kind owner strides up to their table and drops off a tiny plate of sweet rice cakes as a complimentary treat. Stunned by the random dessert, Ife snaps at the owner that he never ordered it, but the guy just grins and swears it's free on the house. The owner hands down his old boss's wisdom. If a customer's food hits so hard it brings tears to their eyes, you make sure you thank them the right way. With a tear wiped away and a grateful grin on her face, Chris pours out heartfelt thanks, and you can practically feel her spirit lifting. Her playful vibe snaps back the moment she digs into the sweet treat, and even the quiet onlooker, Ife, looks genuinely stunned. She flashes him a cheeky grin and playfully reminds him about his promise, then fires off, "So where's my dessert share?" As they leave, the friendly owner beams from the doorway and waves them on, urging them back again for one more sweet treat. Outside, Chris wipes her tears and blurts out an apology for that sudden crying spell, and now that Eve's finally calm, she offers to walk her all the way back to her inn. Isa, her tiny bird buddy, chirps up a storm from her shoulder like it just devoured the best meal of its life. because it totally did. Ive's smile fades, his face turning serious as he steels himself to bring up a tougher, more delicate subject with her. He tells her that a crew from the controversial Nihon group is coming in hot, right in time for the Purini campaign. He tells her the real reason he dragged her to the restaurant. He wants to break the ice with them and get her to trust them, despite how terrifying their reputation is. Chris confirms the rumors she's been hearing. These battles aren't random at all, and she's got no real reason to deny it. He lays out a sharper truth. A lot of the hate they get isn't even about them, it's just jealousy rearing its ugly head. He's sure that even with all the rumors flying around, most of those people aren't what they sound like. They're creators, and the proof is right there in that meal we just crushed. Chris stays quiet as he talks, her face thoughtful, but that uncertainty still lingers around the mysterious group. I tease her about how that meal was so damn good it made her cry, and the second it hits, her face burns red with pure embarrassment. They burst back into her cozy inn, and right on cue the kind madam and a young boy are waiting to greet them with open smiles. The innkeeper and her son, low-key, greet Christian with open arms, bringing her back from the city outing like she's just returned from the heart of the world. Before he left, Eve pulled the madam aside and begged her to keep a sharp eye on Chris for him, and the madam agreed without hesitation. He flashes Chris a warm farewell and tells her, "Get some real rest, because today has been wild." As he strides off, the madam calls him a good guy, just maybe a little too old for Chris. The madam and Chris burst into a warm, good-natured laugh, and they both admit, yeah, a relationship like that would be seriously messed up. Later in her room, Chris sinks into her thoughts, feeling a huge wave of relief knowing Eve doesn't badmouth the Nihon tribe. The very next day, she strides into the Adventurers Guild, fired up and ready to hunt down a fresh job for herself. Pacing the familiar halls of the guild, she realizes her friend and protector, Eve, is nowhere to be found. She can't believe it. When she checks the request board, it's totally wiped clean, with not a single herb-gathering quest anywhere. A gruff adventurer with a hard stare marches up to her, clutching a stack of papers, and declares that he's taking every single herb-gathering job. Chris glares back at him with a look of total disinterest, pure, burning annoyance, questioning why his tone is so hostile. The man sneers down at her, smirking that she's somehow been racking up serious success with those kinds of quests lately. He slaps down his bronze rank tag and declares, "No way, she can't outrank me, not when I'm right here." He tells her, straight to her face, to stop getting cocky just because a powerful Cajun swordmaster has her back. With a sharp, dismissive click of his tongue, the man whips around, turns his back on the request board, and storms off. Chris's heart twists as she admits her attitude was completely out of line, but she swallows it and follows the guild's first-come, first-served rule. The friendly guild receptionist spots her standing idle now and calls out like, "You're done for the day, your shift's over." With a soft, warm smile, she pitches an alternative request, confident it's exactly what Chris needs. Chris scans the new request, and it's wild. He's been tasked with polishing the inside of a giant agate tortoise shell. The receptionist leans in and tells them the job demands razor-precise, careful work, and it hits with a shocking punch of real physical strength. Chris suddenly gets a spark of inspiration. This client runs a monster material shop, and it's the perfect opening for her project. The moment the scene shifts, she strides toward the brand-new workshop, ready to kick off the quest that got approved. She storms into the monster material shop, ready to tackle the brutal polishing job head-on. The shop owner greets her with a tired slump in his face, blurts out thanks over and over, and admits, plainly, that he's desperate for her help. He leans in and drops the bombshell. An enormous, totally unexpected order just landed in their hands, and they've got to deliver it in only 7 days. A heavy darkness and bone-deep exhaustion press down on the workshop as the other workers slump over their tasks, barely holding on. Seeing how drained they look, Chris steps in with a new plan, telling her to tackle the rough shell stripping first. She then drops a weird little bombshell, straight up asks if they've got any spare stone or hardwood she can smash. To prove just how freakishly strong she is, she casually snaps a thick chunk of wood in two with her bare hands. The workers just stand there, stunned beyond words. Her power hits them like a punch, and shock freezes their faces solid. She slaps a huge, rough tortoise shell onto the workbench, ready to tear through the brutal, difficult stripping task ahead. With a hammer in one hand and a chisel in the other, she goes to work, delivering sharp, rhythmic strikes that land with total confidence, steady as a heartbeat. With each brutal, perfectly timed strike, she hammers the shell's rough outer skin until it finally fractures and crumbles away. Another worker blurts out in pure shock because she's not just faster, She's dead on more precise than every single one of them. Two of the guys stand there with their jaws on the floor, watching her keep carving tortoise shells with jaw-dropping precision. Her expert strikes keep hammering away at the rough exterior, landing with a speed and accuracy that feels almost unbelievable. Grateful and desperate, the workers swarm around her, begging her to come back and save them again tomorrow. Chris' stomach drops with sudden anxiety. She realizes she can't take their offer because she's already locked in other plans for the afternoon. They keep begging her, promising to file a fresh request with the guild and even taking her out to lunch, anything to get her help. Caught by her insane speed, the boss snaps into action, cooks up a brand new plan, and orders every brutal shell-stripping job handed straight to Chris. Now that the hardest grind is done, the other workers are free to focus on scrubbing and polishing the inside of the shells. Chris works with relentless focus, her tiny frame packed with the kind of strength that makes every task feel like a power move. After grinding through endless work, she wipes the sweat off her brow and exhales like she just survived the hardest part. That final stack of perfectly clean, ready-to-use shells clicks into place, and they shine, neatly stacked right there on the table. Two of the male workers groan through the pain, bitterly complaining that their bodies are wrecked and they can't even raise their arms. When Chris spots how wiped out and miserable they are, a bright idea ignites in his head, one quick plan to ease their pain. She offers to whip up cold compresses for them, and swears she's got a simple recipe she picked up from a witch. He's stunned by her offer, because he can't wrap his head around how someone who isn't even a healer could pull off something like that. She grins and lays it out. This recipe's simple, and anyone can follow it without getting lost. She kicks things off by soaking a whole bunch of mint in a big pot of cold, clean well water. Then she shows them how to pour that mint-infused water into the bowl and stretch out a portion of horse fat like a pro. At last, the cooling mixture gets soaked into a clean cloth, and boom, the compress is ready, simple as it gets but weirdly effective. She makes it crystal clear. This recipe only hits muscle pain, and it's definitely not a cure-all for every problem under the sun. The guys shout about how those cool, minty compresses melt their aching shoulders, and you can practically feel the relief hitting them in real time. At a rowdy afterwork celebration, the boss grabs Chris's attention and asks if she's somehow hunting for damaged wings from a rainbow hopper. Chris tells her those perfect, untouched wings are way too expensive for her budget, so she's stuck hoping she can find damaged ones instead. The boss blurts that she should have said it earlier, then orders her to hold up for just a second while he grabs whatever he needs. He comes back dragging a huge wooden crate packed with glittering, colorful shards of glass, and he tells her, "Take them home with you." He and another woman push the other girl to take them, claiming they're already wrecked, stuff they were just going to toss anyway. Chris can't help it. Joy hits like a wave, and she snatches the generous gift with a grin, her mind already sprinting through a million wild ideas for what those shards could become. Every worker beams at her, grinning through pure gratitude because they finally get to pay her back for all the priceless help she gave them. Later that night, she strides into a dark stone-paved alley, humming under her breath, grinning like she just got the best new haul of materials. She can't help but muse that it'd look absolutely badass to snap those gorgeous colorful shards into place like stained glass. Her bright mood shatters the moment she hears footsteps creeping up on her in that crushing, soundless darkness. Cold dread slams into her when she realizes, panicked and wide-eyed, that a shadowy hooded figure is stalking right behind her. A chilling flashback hits her, Ife's recent, dead-serious warning about a child being kidnapped in the area. Her eyes snap wide with terror as the warning finally clicks. Now she realizes she's already in the worst possible spot. She keeps moving, but fear tightens her face into a grim mask, while that cloaked shadow keeps stalking her in deadly silence. A young girl named Chris yanks out a magical paper, grumbling to herself that it's probably a waste, yet she still needs it. She thrusts the paper into the air and fires up a devastating defense spell in her head. A faint glow, so subtle only she can see it, flares from the paper as the magic finally locks in. Turns out the witch's paper has one insane trick. It only glows for the person holding it. In a quick flashback, a younger Chris fights tooth and nail to master the witch Sama's wild, one-of-a-kind characters. She presses deeper into the pitch-black alley, and that shadowy, hooded figure keeps closing in right on her heels. With a defiant glare, she dares her pursuer to strike fast, if that's really what they came for. She jolts when a shadowy figure steps into view and locks eyes with her. Her expression twists with raw shock as a familiar voice suddenly calls out her name out of nowhere. Then the mystery figure flips into focus. It's a friendly-looking young boy with light-colored hair and suspenders. Chris blurts the boy's name, Loki, as recognition hits him like lightning. Loki tells her he tracked her down because his mother had started panicking. Her tension evaporates, and she flashes him a warm smile as she throws her heartfelt thanks his way. With Loki shining ahead of them, she blurts out that she was stuck because of a client's after-party. As she walks home, she exhales in relief. Whatever ominous presence had been stalking her is gone. Later, alone in her room, she can't stop replaying that strange, chilling encounter, her thoughts whispering and twisting in the dark. She pulls out the gorgeous rainbow hopper wing shards, the ones that shimmer like liquid light, and just can't stop admiring them. She swivels toward her tiny bird, Isa, and asks if it loves staring at pretty things too. Isa's excited chirp shoots straight through her and yanks her back to her promise. She's building that house. She grins and teasingly asks Isa if he wants the beautiful shards to move into his new home. For now, she leans in close and meticulously sorts every shard by size and color. Clutching her storage pouch, she watches it fill up fast, right up to that dreaded limit. Her bird, Isa, watches with sharp curiosity as she starts stuffing the items away. She leans in and tells Isa the pouch is enchanted. Only she can see what's inside. Her mind drifts straight to Eve, and that friend of hers with an absolutely ridiculous storage pouch. She suddenly remembers a recent talk, then realizes what she's sitting on is insanely valuable. They told me that her tiny pouch could swallow enough to hold an entire house. Then he threw out a price tag so huge it almost felt unreal. 10,000 gold coins. She blinks in disbelief, a cold sweat breaking out as she realizes the cost is the same as buying a real house. That pouch wasn't just any bag. It was a priceless hand-me-down her mentor, the witch Sama, had passed to her. She knows it can swallow the space of 2 whole warehouses, but it still jams up fast when she doesn't keep it organized. Staring at her desk, she realizes she has to grab more paper and ink, fast, before she runs out. She notices her pen scribbles out thick, messy lines, way too clunky for anything delicate. With grit in her eyes, she decides she's getting right back to crafting more magical paper. The very next day, she shows up at the local Adventurers Guild branch. She stands there staring at the request board, stunned to find a herb-gathering quest still sitting there, waiting to be picked. A guild receptionist strides up and warns her not to step outside the city that day. The receptionist leans in and blurts that Eve's been yanked away on urgent business, right into the labyrinth. She tells him straight up, Eve had been terrified of Chris heading out on that quest by himself. Chris finds out he's still not back yet, even though she wraps up her last job early. The receptionist leans in and whispers that there's an urgent, even more immediate problem she can't ignore. Chris instantly snaps back to that cruel adventurer, Jace, the one she'd run into earlier. The receptionist says Jace couldn't finish his quest because Chris was moving so efficiently, it shut everything down. Chris finally gets it. Geese was staring at that board so hard the other day for a reason. With a fierce flash in her eyes, she declares, I'm going to be the bait. She's convinced the forest will line everything up just right for the perfect ambush. The receptionist shoots back an alarm, insisting it's way too dangerous to move an inch without AFE's help. Just as things simmer down, another guild staffer barrels in and asks, Chris, can you handle one more gathering request? He lays it out. Jace's actions have snowballed into a nasty pileup of jobs that won't stop stacking up. He begs Chris, showering her with praise for doing everything the right way, steady, careful, and rock solid. Chris confidently nods and tells them she's got a backup plan ready, just in case things go sideways. The receptionist leans in and fires off one last panicked warning, grab your feet and run, because danger is right on your heels. The story sweeps into a massive wide shot. There's a thick, quiet forest stretching out like a calm before the storm. Chris calmly gathers herbs as Perachin the horse grazes nearby, all peaceful, at least for now. With a sharp jolt, she braces her mind for impact, ready for an attack to strike from anywhere. Her powerful horse, Peruchan, senses the danger racing toward them too, and snaps its ears forward like it knows something's coming. She snaps around as her horse shudders, and a threat crawls out from right behind her. Her eyes blow wide as she spots movement in the bushes, and everything clicks. 2 men crouch in the thick foliage, peering out and watching her like they're afraid she'll catch them. Jace, their leader, strides out and flat-out confirms he always knew it was her. Guy snaps his tongue, fuming because he just clocked. His ambush got spotted. He snaps orders at his 2 terrified accomplices, handle the horse now. With a nasty smirk on his face, he growls that he's here to settle the score with that little runt. Unshaken, Chris snaps back that she's got a few things to say to him too. She snaps a razor-sharp order to Peruchan, and the horse charges straight for the 2 men. A colossal horse barrels toward the terrified accomplices, blasting up dirt with every thunderous kick. Parachin's eyes blaze with fury, daring anyone to hurt Chris, because revenge is coming. Both men are locked in pure terror, utterly crushed by what they're seeing. Their leader explodes in frustration, yelling at them for being terrified of what he swears is just a horse. They see the danger is too big to ignore, so the accomplices spin around and bolt for their lives. Guy snarls curses at them, calling them useless cowards for ditching him in the fight. All alone, Chris steadies his breath, sizing her up, then decides she's nothing but a low-level street punk. She squares up to him, eyes locked and voice kept sharp, daring him to step into a one-on-one face-off. She wrestles with her next move in her head, hit with a surprise attack or strike with magical paper. Her tiny bird, Isa, suddenly lets out a sharp chirp and beats its wings, like it's about to jump in and stop whatever happens next. Isa rockets off her shoulder and slams straight into Jay's stunned face. Chris's eyes flare with instant recognition as she spots the perfect opening. Fuming and distracted, Gates lashes out and swats the bird right as Chris rockets forward. She drives her head straight into his midsection with a crushing, bone-jarring impact. Jay's face contorts into raw shock and brutal agony as the air gets ripped from his lungs. He doubles over and clutches his stomach, crushed by a wave of excruciating pain from the sudden ambush. Chris towers over him, her face twisted with fury as she spits that what he did is unforgivable. Rage ignites in her chest as she launches a savage tirade, screaming that he's a perverted freak. She unleashes a vicious storm of punches, ripping into him for teaming up on her. After unleashing her furious assault, she towers over him, defeated and unconscious on the ground. With a hard, determined stare, she braces herself to handle her captive, finally subdued and within reach. She knots him down tight, and finally tells herself the job is over for real. She leans into her horse, Parachin, and tells him she'll never make him haul that man. She shuts down the whole idea that her little bird, Isa, could carry him, because to her it's straight up impossible. Instead, she swings into the saddle and hauls the bound man behind her as she rides. They slam into the city gates. She's ready to hand him straight to the authorities. Chris couldn't believe it. He demanded the guards explain why they weren't hauling him off to arrest him. A guard cuts him off and says, "You can't take me, I'm a citizen, but you're not." She's left stunned, still trying to wrap her head around that maddening bureaucratic loophole. The video cuts to the Adventurers Guild, because it's the only lifeline left for her. A woman blows up in fury, furious that the attack won't bring any real punishment. Chris lays it out. The guild probably doesn't want to waste time babysitting its own members' misconduct. Isa snarls through clenched teeth, chirping in furious agreement that a simple demotion isn't even close to real justice. Geese wears a sour, sulky face as he's sentenced to a hilariously short 10-day labor stint. With a quiet sigh, Chris drops the truth like a punch. No matter what they tried, nothing ever really got solved. Chris announces she's leaving, and with her attacker stuck doing forced labor, she's sure she'll be fine. Deeper into the forest she went, gripping her nerves tight, warning herself to stay on guard for the two escaped thugs. She doesn't waste a second. She crafts a protective magical paper just in case. Her loyal horse and her tiny bird sidekick perch and stand right by her, eyes sharp, ready for anything. A warm smile blooms across her face, and suddenly their presence feels like pure comfort. She leans in and tells her friends she's counting on them, right there with her, no question. Later, her friend Ives stands right in front of her with his arms crossed, staring her down with a deadly serious look. He asks if she's angry, but she's not. Disappointment hangs in the air, and then he snaps that she's reckless for falling right into the bait. Ife realizes two of her attackers slipped away, and she bluntly admits she messed up. A tight close-up pins Ife with a stern, mildly disappointed stare that screams, "I'm not buying this." Then he cuts to the chase and drops a wild invitation. Come join the crew diving into the labyrinth. A quick flashback hits. Watch the guild get cornered, forced to bend their sacred rules and make an exception. She nails it, he's terrified for her, and he grumbles the truth even though he doesn't want to. To calm his nerves, she decides she'll stick to safe jobs inside the city for a while. Ife warns her to stay sharp, and she fires back the exact same caution to the gold-ranked adventurer. A brand new worry hits her hard. If she stays cooped up in the city, how is her horse even going to get the exercise it needs? The story snaps over to the towering, unfinished wooden frame of her carriage house. A pair of gloved hands lifts a breathtaking round stained glass window, all those tiny, intricate patterns bursting with color. Master craftsman Goris leaned in and demanded her take on exactly where the window should be placed. She jabs a finger at the blueprints and picks a spot, but he spots a snag. Could the lighting be wrong? She pitches a smart fix on the spot, slapping a built-in shelf, and he immediately goes, "Yeah, that's actually genius." She came up with another idea, mounting a window right above her bed, and Garas couldn't help but call it downright dreamy. But once she admitted what she was thinking, her stomach dropped, because imagining monsters staring back through the dark made it feel terrifying. The three craftsmen stare at her, and a faint, amused surprise lights up their faces. Their shock flips into a loud, hearty wave of laughter that hits them all at once. One of them winks and teases her nonstop, tapping her head while calling out just how wild her vivid imagination is. She snaps back to the project, scanning everything like a hawk, and realizing all the needed materials are finally here. Her coworkers ramp up the hype as she gets ready for the main build, but she cracks a shaky smile and admits the nerves are hitting hard. She takes a deep, steadying breath, shuts her eyes tight, and locks in her focus like nothing else exists. A deep realization hits her like lightning, and suddenly she's laser-focused, building her own house from the ground up. It all kicks off with a battle plan, first the walls, then the floor, and finally the ceiling. She drops to her knees and hammers planks in perfect rhythm, driving every nail like she's done it 1,000 times. She climbs up to the top and carefully fastens the arched roof in place. She runs her fingers over the wooden plank, and that tiny flaw on its surface doesn't escape her. She snaps into action with a saw, cutting out the flaw in the wood with sharp, pinpoint precision. The apprentices stare in awe as one apprentice whispers, stunned. She fixes his mistake with nothing but one look. With the whole setup locked in place, she snaps, "All right, time to install that window." She tenderly slides that gorgeous, detailed round window into the wooden wall like she's crafting magic with her own hands. With a smug, satisfied glance, she announces that the first floor interior is finally done. She climbs up to the second floor loft and decides the underbed space is going straight to storage. She decides to toss in a small table beside the bed too, just so she has a spot to work. With that fear still fresh in her mind, she refuses to put a window straight over the bed. With the main interior finally done, she barrels into the smaller, detail-packed sections next. Under the carriage, she snaps together a feather-light magic steel bath container, ready to slide into place. On the far side of the carriage, she snaps together a compact kitchen sink and gets it ready fast. She studies her plans with laser focus, making sure every single piece locks in flawlessly. She grabs a brush and paints the final coat over the outside wooden walls. A jaw-dropping 2-story wooden carriage house stands right in front of her, fully finished and impossible to ignore. Her face flickers with exhaustion, brims with awe, and holds a calm, quiet pride. Her colleagues stare in shock, their jaws dropping as she races through each task and turns out work so polished it feels unreal. Garas leans in and gives her a soft, proud head pat, like, "You nailed it." The praise hits her like a wave. Her cheeks catch a shy blush before she can even steady herself. The landlady strides in and softly tells him, "That's enough for now," shutting it down on the spot. She pushes Chris Chan to take a rest first, insisting her hard work earned him that break. Gories shoots back an instant yes, shoves the others back to their tasks, and swears they'll hit a study session later. The landlady beams and promises she'll throw a celebratory feast later to honor her big win. All alone, she sinks into silence on the doorstep of her brand-new home, while her bird whirls and flutters overhead. With her companion perched on her shoulder, she takes one breath and lets the truth finally hit her. She steps into her own creation with a shaky, meaningful caution, like she's afraid of what might answer back. She sweeps her eyes across the inside and can't stop gaping at everything she's built. She admits it might be just a tiny carriage. The realization slams into her. She's finally got a place she can call her very own. A past life memory flickers to the surface when she obeyed her parents' wishes without question. When she tries to remember her fiancé's betrayal, the past hits her like a brutal wound. The camera snaps in close, and you can see her old self's face twisted with pain and heavy, hopeless sorrow. She clings to one fierce promise. She'd live on her own, only for fate to snatch that dream away the moment she died. Back in the present, she looks around and realizes this house is the very first thing she's ever truly won with her own hands. The next morning, the story kicks off outside the rented room where she's staying. She flops onto her bed, humming with pure joy like the party was still happening in her head. Her mood snaps into survival mode as she counts every last debt and realizes she has to get the carriage moving. She snaps her focus to the little white bird lounging in its basket. She teasingly asked if they should build its house next, and the little thing chirped right back, agreeing instantly. The little bird bursts into pure joy, chirping nonstop and flapping its wings like it can't hold the excitement in. She snatches vine and straw for her build, and then she firmly shuts the door on anything made of metal. She's determined to forge something unforgettable, something that'll lift the bird's spirit higher and higher until the excitement practically bursts out of it. With grit in her eyes, she leans in and declares, "All right, let's start." A blank panel flashes on screen like a beat of silence, snapping us forward to the next chunk of the construction. The bird's eyes shine like tiny stars as it chirps with pure, unfiltered joy, lighting up the whole moment. She pulls out a gorgeous woven birdhouse and points out the extra-wide entrance like it's the secret everyone's been missing. The tour of the inside blows your mind with its multi-level layout, each floor split out on its own. The top floor turns into a cozy living room and play zone, complete with a woven toy just begging to be played with. Up on the second floor, they dine in style. There's a tiny window dressed with curtains, adding that cozy glow to every meal. She breaks down the simple string trick that yanks the curtain wide open and then shuts it tight. Right by the entrance, the third floor has a play and exercise wheel you can spin and use. The fourth floor is a buzzing creative haven, packed with all the stuff you'd need to build a nest. The bottom floor is where the water bowl sits, and where you get a private bathroom all to yourself. A tiny hinged door gets built into the side, so you can clean the toilet area in a snap. A tight close-up catches the bird's eyes blazing with pure joy, like they're lit from the inside. A bright bird suddenly explodes into a joyful song, and she hears it loud and clear as a heartfelt thank you. Then it darts over and pecks the nearby pie, chirping like it just hit the jackpot. The bird drops in right beside its basket, brimming with excitement as it's about to step into its brand new home. She grins and watches as it hauls all its stuff into the new house, like a fresh start in motion. It hustles back and forth, clutching tiny treasures in its beak like it can't stop. She can't help but marvel at the stunning pile of personal treasures it's got. Its hoard is a weird little feast: tiny dried fruit, a round pebble, and an empty insect shell. The bird proudly stands there, guarding its perfectly arranged little treasure display. When she offers to carry the items, the other person freezes in a totally ridiculous, comically horrified stare. They pound on the door, and right when they're getting started, a voice barks for Chris John. She peeks through the doorway, nodding as she decides to meet the visitor and talk. The boy Loki leans in and tells her that the Adventurers Guild has sent someone with a message just for her. A young boy bursts in and tells Chris she's been summoned to the guild headquarters. Right at the gate, a royal official practically bursts with excitement and tells her, "I've been waiting for you." Panic flashes across his face as he leans in, begging her, "Please help me." Once he steadied his nerves, he blurted out why they needed an enormous stash of magical paper. Like, right now. Chris pitches the Magic Guild like it's the answer, then shocks everyone when he reveals their magical inscriber has vanished. She figures that, based on her past with them, the Magic Guild rarely lifts a finger to help. She can't believe it. Why won't someone with a mid-tier skill just crack open a manual and learn? Those official fumes from the Magic Guild? Don't buy it. They're just spinning excuses and straight-up messing with them. He starts clocking their motives and wonders if they're just trying to jack up the prices. Desperation crashes back in as he blurts out that she's the only one they can truly count on. Seated at the table, she's swamped by his intense, urgent plea. She'll hear the offer out, but she only says yes once she sees the exact patterns they need. He throws out a generous offer, and before she can even think twice, she snaps up the deal right then and there. They lock in their mutually beneficial deal with a hard, no-nonsense handshake that hits like a promise. The guild official breaks into a sly, smug grin right after sealing the deal. Chris smirks right back, matching that same smug, secret plot grin like they're in on something. That passing woman gets spooked by their creepy laughter, and she snaps at them to stop, right now. The official thrusts a book into her hands, packed with the patterns, and files it away as a proper, authorized request. While she reads, she spots that the request comes from the Nihon tribe, and he confirms it with a firm nod. The moment she hears the name, her face tightens up, and a tired wariness creeps in behind her eyes. With worry in her voice, she asks if her acquaintance, Eve, is tied to the Nihon tribe's party. The official flat-out confirms Afe is with them, and everyone's stunned because she not only knows him, she somehow knew him well. She's clearly flustered, sitting across the table from him like she's fighting to stay calm. He finally gets it, "I'm watching out for her," then admits it like a gut punch. He totally forgot she's still just a kid. She snaps back about her age, then drops the bombshell that she was just attacked in the forest. She tells them the security force flat-out shut her down, saying they wouldn't touch her case because she isn't a citizen. Rage flashes across his face as he confirms, really this happened. He declares the guild can't ignore this injustice 1 second longer, and vows they'll handle it themselves. He pushes for a semi-citizen clause in her contract, just to lock in her legal standing. Relief floods her, and she pours out heartfelt thanks to him like it might be the only thing that matters. He pitches an expiration clause for the contract, pointing straight at the Magic Guild's pricing. She thinks ahead and slips in one more clause, so she can end the contract anytime she wants. He nods right away, because he knows it'd be brutal to ask her to stay after everything she just survived. The story snaps to a sweeping view of the city's giant archstone gateway, towering over everything like a grand entrance into chaos. Chris quickly realizes the city has zero urge to grow its population. In Guerrero, a man rages over the widening split between locals and outsiders, watching it grow right before his eyes. They both stare at the irony. Turns out outsiders are the spark that keeps the city thriving. A woman strides in with a tray and slips over the ominous truth. Most of the top adventures belong to outsiders. Chris suddenly gets it. This massive job means she's about to be trapped in her room for a long, long while. When they press her about whether she's scared, she just blurts that she needs somewhere to stash her carriage. She can't help but worry about her horse, Peru-chan. He's getting antsy and won't settle down. Her whole face lights up the second they tell her the guild will pick up the bill for her lodging. She smiles politely, then firmly declines, because once she tastes luxury, she knows she'll never want to give it up. The officials propose a deal. They'll give guild care for Peru-chan if someone takes the riding lessons offer. She's stunned when she discovers the mayor actually owns rare, priceless dragon horses. The official record spills how the mayor snagged those mind-blowing creatures. He tells them that dragon horses are a rare, special breed, each one blessed by a dragon itself. A majestic painting bursts into view, an untamed, horned dragon horse, purebred and roaring with power, captured in all its glory. He spills that Peru-chan's rocking dragon horse lineage, and that it's inherited part of their wild traits. Chris realizes that those proper riding lessons are the only thing her companion really needs. She grins, thinking about how perfect, tough as nails and loyal to the bone, heavy-breed dogs are for any adventurer ready to hit the road. With a trembling breath, she leans in and demands they treat Peru-chan like family. At the stable, she's right by her horse, gripping the reins while a stable hand loosens things up. She's ready to go. She tells Peru-chan straight up, he's got to stick with the guild for a while. The horse wears a stone-cold look, like it's already accepted fate and can do nothing but endure. A steady hand calms the horse, telling it not to fret, and the animal answers with a quiet, reassuring snort. Balancing on Chris's head, Esau the tiny bird starts blaring out a non-stop burst of energetic chirps. A horse suddenly loses its mind in the funniest panic, eyes bulging like it's about to explode from stress. Chris calmly told Esau, his bird companion, to stop talking, right then and there. Then the tale snaps to a massive brick guild building looming in full view. At her desk, Chris slams through an urgent request for magical paper, because she's got to stop lizards before they strike. The illusion lizards unleash brutal mental attacks by conjuring deadly illusions out of thin air. Adventurers can fight back, but crushing them takes time, sweat, and a brutal kind of patience. That insane swarm of lizards screams one thing: an alpha boss with real power is right here. She's going to fire off her magical paper and erase the whole swarm in one clean sweep. Watts calls out a hole in the plan, grilling whether a vacuum spell can even pull off what they want. She instantly agrees that a magic suppression spell is the most efficient way to handle it. She pushes herself to wrap the job up fast, before the Magic Guild's drama can flare up again. A hopeful little grin spreads across her face as she starts dreaming of finally paying off her house carriage. She sings under her breath, totally thrilled, picturing that incredible rush of finally rolling around in her own mobile home. Her fountain pen skates over the page as she dives into that delicate, intricate writing. She grips the pen and freezes mid-stroke, staring at the tip like it's a secret she's about to crack. She calls out to her bird buddy, Esau, as he snoozes in his cage. She asks them to go to the senior fairies and beg for a favor, top-notch fine craftwork, done right. She tells him plain and simple. Human-made fountain pen nibs are way too thick to handle real precision. Esau the bird practically blurts in excitement the second the fairies get mentioned. She raises a sheet filled with character names, laying out the whole cast for the new design. ESA swoops onto the paper like it owns the place, flashing confidence as it boldly says it can ask them. Chris can't believe it. He's over the moon, staring in shock, and blurts out, "Wait, you're really saying this could be real?" Puffed up with pride, ESA bursts into loud, cheering chirps like it's gloating at the world. Then it abruptly lunges into its woven travel carrier, leaving Chris completely baffled. The bird explodes into motion, rockets straight for the window, and that's when Chris blurts out a call. She spots that it's holding a rolled-up sheet of magical paper, one she made just for it. Esau cradles the tiny scroll beneath its wing, gripping tight as the journey about to begin. It chirps once like, "Don't worry, this paper armor's got you." A tight close-up reveals the razor-detailed magical script etched into that special paper, pulsing with raw power. This isn't just paper. It's a special cloth paper blend that stays strong even after you roll it. Chris can't shake her worry. She demands that it be safe and not overdo it. The little bird flutters higher and higher until it's nothing but a speck, streaking across the city rooftops. Chris leans at the window, her eyes heavy with worry, like she's stuck in a silent storm. She panics that she never asked when he'd return, and her mind drifts to her other companion, Peru-chan. She shakes the sadness off like it's nothing and steels herself. Back to work she goes, determined to see them sooner. Right then, knock knock. The door erupts and she realizes a visitor is here. She's suddenly told that a man named Watts is here, demanding to see her. Watts burst in, grinning, and announced he'd come to grab the finished sheets. He says he came in Anna's place, because he refuses to risk her walking alone. Chris freezes and then it hits. Realization sparks across her face like a flash. She bristles and blasts back, saying she's been hauling them all by herself this whole time. She shrugs it off and admits her tiny stature is the perfect disguise, straight-up camouflage for slipping past thieves. Watts freezes when she finally sees it. Her logic checks out, and suddenly the most obvious adventure is screaming at her to be the next target. A young girl steps up and offers to deliver the items, way to send the man into panic, because he never expected the surprise. He grabs her offer with a grateful smile, then swears he'll follow her and play escort by her side. She breaks down her investigation skill, the kind of low-tier power that lets her read clues in stuff like magical paper. He shows off his razor-sharp talent for sniffing out danger in people, and she's absolutely blown away. With a cocky grin, he insists that riding in a carriage will shield them from most trouble. As they close in on the carriage, a cloaked figure slinks out in the nearby alley, radiating pure menace. The mysterious figure's face is buried under a deep hood and a scarf, leaving not a single feature in sight. Sensing disaster closing in, the man blurts a frantic warning and screams at Chris to watch out. A cloaked assailant drops in out of nowhere behind the startled girl, swallowing the gap in an instant. With a menacing hand, the attacker lunges forward, ready to snatch unsuspecting Chris before he even realizes it. With a blur of pure speed, the stranger snatches Chris up while her escort gets launched flying like a wrecking ball. Clutched in the assailant's grip, she snaps, then unleashes her wind magical paper. Her attacker lets out a sharp grunt as a brutal force slams into them from the side out of nowhere. A brand new figure bursts into view, and with a perfectly aimed kick, it launches the cloakman flying. The hero ripped into the attacker, blasting him for assaulting a girl right there in plain daylight. He whipped around to the girl on the ground and flashed a bright grin, asking if she was okay. The rescuer looms over the downed man in total victory, and a small crowd starts to crowd in fast. He repeats his worries, admitting that what she went through must have been terrifying. Still rattled, Chris forces out a soft thank you, like he can barely breathe through it. Her escort Watts lurches back to his feet, blabbing non-stop apologies and urgently asking if she's okay. The hero needles Watts, blasting him for not keeping a sharper eye on the girl. Staring at the scene, he snarled at the sheer audacity of that brazen daylight attack. Then he drops a shocking truth. The attacker is a member of the Nihon tribe. Switching gears, he leaned over and demanded that Watts confirm whether he'd brought the magical paper they asked for. The young hero flashes a grin and jokingly offers to escort Chris home a little later. He shoots her a quick wink, reassuring her he's definitely not a lullican. Watts leans in and tells a baffled Chris that the Nihon tribes all speak in a way that's totally unlike anyone else. She's still not buying it. She keeps staring up at the hero with a look so suspicious it could cut glass. Arms folded tight, she keeps staring him down, doubt sparking in her eyes, caution holding her back. The hero just shot back a shy, awkward little smile, like he got caught in the act. Her thoughts screech to a halt. Could he really be a lollican? They roll up to the grand, columned entrance of this huge, official-looking building. Inside the roaring hall, they step into the crowd and slide into a line with a bunch of other adventurers and visitors. Watts pushes them to hunt for a room, while Chris secretly prays he can slip out clean, without getting dragged into any trouble. Her escape gets slammed to a stop when the hero steps in and demands she come with them. She shoots her gaze upward and gasps in pure shock, like she can't believe what she's seeing. He leans in and reminds her she's the one who answered their urgent request. Then he clocks it instantly. Watts dragged her here after the attack. Chris can only give a shaky, unsure answer, wrestling with the fact that his assessment is right. He smirks and braggingly tells us figuring it out is a total breeze. For him, not for the NPC crowd. He drops the heavy vibe, grins, and cheerfully introduces himself, Ruka throwing up a V-sign like it's nothing. She blushes and shoots back her name, Chris, then offers a careful, respectful greeting. All three sink into their seats in a stiff, formal room as Roka leans in and starts digging through the papers. He leans in and studies one of the magical papers with an intense, stone-faced focus. He checks the paper and gives it instant respect, fully trusting Watts's past stamp of approval. When someone asks Ruka what he's really doing, he shrugs it off and insists he's just a lowly errand boy. Then he whips around to Chris and straight up asks if she's got the magical inscriber skill. Both she and Watts look completely rattled, like that blunt, surprise question hit them out of nowhere. Ruka remembers one brutal truth about this world. People don't just hand over their skills like it's nothing. Chris makes it crystal clear she doesn't have any of that top-tier skill. He chuckles and admits her logic is so spot-on it makes total sense. Then with a bright grin, he proudly lays out the 4 different skills that make him so damn impressive. In a flashback, it hits him hard. She's got the super strength skill too. He heaps praise on her skills, then humbles himself hard, calling himself just a small fry compared to everyone else. A warm blush creeps across his face as he stares at her, nodding with real, earned respect. She shoots him a shy, half-embarrassed look, like she can't believe he just said that. Chris tells everyone, "My work is done," and she's ready to bolt back to her inn. Ruka can't believe it. How is someone that tiny out there doing a solo adventure all by themselves? A brilliant idea lights up his mind, and he practically sweeps her off her feet with an excited invitation to join his party. He figures there's no way he can walk away and leave a little girl stranded on her own. He even drops a crazy idea. She could craft magical paper for them right there inside the labyrinth. Watts explodes in protest, yelling that Ruka can't possibly ask a minor to do something this dangerous. Ruka pitches the idea as his plan to keep that tiny, adorable girl out of harm's way. After getting shoved aside one too many times, Chris snaps and lets out a roar of raw, unfiltered annoyance. She snaps back, dead sure she's not in any trouble, and that she can handle everything on her own. When she mentions a house carriage, her head spins. She's both totally baffled and wildly intrigued. He grilled them for answers, desperate to understand what a livable carriage was supposed to mean. He blurted out what skill she used, then caught himself mid-sentence and shot an apology her way. She speaks coolly and declares she'll be gone from town soon, making it crystal clear she doesn't need anyone. Ruka only half listens, like every flicker of her bravery is what's really holding him spellbound. Right as they're talking, a hard knock slams through the air and cuts the moment short. A woman grabs the room's attention and announces, "The security force squad leader is here. He wants to see Watts." Watts unveils the stern mustache man as the squad's leader for the Western District. The squad leader kicks things off with a real apology, already knowing about that nasty earlier incident, courtesy of Watts. He calls out the city and demands they stop pretending they didn't see adventurers get turned into victims. It turns out the push to give her semi-citizen status didn't come from nowhere. It was his idea, straight from him. Then he straight up asks her, in the most formal way possible, to spill every detail from both incidents. The 3 of them lean in, eyes locked on her, as she fires off every chilling detail of the attacks. After her story hits, the squad leader shuts his eyes tight, and a grim shadow hardens his face. Ruka erupts with righteous fury, swearing she'll beat the person responsible to a pulp. The squad leader slams down a promise. They'll dig deep, track the culprits, and make sure the punishment fits. Watts points out that she made the move to a guild set aside for her protection, because her safety comes first. Ruka jumps in to help her move, then casually mentions he's staying there too. Chris can't stop worrying about the bill, because she'll have to pay for her own food. They slam into her old inn, and the sign dangling from the brick wall swings like it's been waiting for them. The innkeeper burst out apologizing, swearing he never even saw the moment Chris got attacked. Chris leans in and reassures the woman she's done nothing wrong, then tells her to come back soon. She tilts her head up, eyes wide, and gapes at the massive, ornate facade of the brand-new luxury inn. Watts grins and proudly points out that the new spot is right near the guild HQ. Snuggled deep inside a giant, fluffy bed, Chris struggles to drift off and can't seem to fall asleep. Now that she's moved, she gets to see her beloved horse, Peru-chan, every single morning and night. While Ruka's off inside the labyrinth, he can't drag her into his chaos anymore. At last, she locks in on her work, and with everything finally settling down, she realizes, somehow, it all worked out the best way. A sharp crash at the window slices through her calm work, and she jerks in surprise. A tiny white bird swoops in, and she bursts into pure joy, the kind of relief that finally hits. She leans in close to Isa and practically spills tears of joy, telling her bird she's so relieved he's back safe and sound. Isa drops onto her desk and snaps, asking if they're going to approve the request. He makes it crystal clear. This isn't some senior fairy at all, it's a spirit that's coming instead. Chris quizzes her bird about when the spirit will show up, and the bird casually tells him, "I'm already here." She whips around and freezes in pure shock at the tiny, alien-looking figure standing in her room. A strange creature with huge alien eyes crackles out its message in a burst of electronic beeps. Startled, a young girl blurts out that she's the one who builds houses for the being. A weird wave of déjà vu crashes over her, and she can't stop trying to figure out where she's seen him before. She jerks back to a chilling memory of a captured alien, right as her bird loses it and panics. The creature calmly tells Isa, the frantic bird, to settle down, and not a hint of panic shows on its face. Blushing after her little bird fiasco, she apologizes, then just listens as the creature promises to grant her wish. She gets it, the deal's clear. Now she has to raise a whole house for a spirit as payment. He says Isa's loud brag about that amazing woven house instantly hooked his attention. She snaps the deal shut, then immediately says she's slammed with an urgent job that has to come first. Once they'd reached a yes, she leaned in and asked him what kind of home he wanted to live in. The spirit proudly lays out what it wants, a square little mobile home with a tiny bird-sized doorway. When she brings up furniture, the spirit just shrugs it off and says it doesn't need any. Clutching a tiny scrap of paper, the girl asks the spirit what it thinks about her design. Her face snaps from calm to pure disbelief, shock and confusion crashing over her all at once. A gloved hand flashes into view, and with one sharp motion it screams that a transformation is about to hit, hard and fast. In a split second, the creature shrank into a tiny dwarf, locking in its new look like a brand new form. He tells them, straight up, he only shows his real form to the people he fully trusts. He drops his super complicated name, then grins and says, "Just call me Paropi." Paropi blurts out his plan to hit the city for sightseeing, while he kills time waiting. The girl's eyes go wide, and she realizes he's just storming off to explore alone. She snaps him to a halt, yanking him back with the one thing he swore he'd deliver, the fountain pen nib. Rookie lets out a shaky laugh, then snaps back, because she's spot on. He totally forgot their deal. Then he finally confesses. His real motive is simple. He wants to watch her write with the pen he's about to make. At her desk, the girl gets ready to work, while Purupi and Isa stare at her, right on top of her. With total sincerity, she swears she'll craft a pen nib with everything she's got. Purupi is absolutely over the moon about her promise, and you can practically see his love for his bird buddy bursting out of him. His face instantly hardens into pure seriousness, and the girl can't believe how laser-focused he's become. She leans in and asks if her unstoppable, cheerful hug was just a little too much for that tiny spirit. He blurts out that he's totally fine with it, and he even begs her to do it again and more. She's totally thrown off. Does he seriously enjoy getting manhandled like this? Deep in a shadowy cave, a ragtag crew of adventurers huddles around a scrap of magical paper, staring like it might explode into power at any second. One of the adventure's biggest shocks is how effortlessly the magical paper springs to life. He blurts out that a tiny, adorable girl made it, and he's totally treating her like waifu material. His companions snap in disgust, yelling that he's gross and demanding he stop, right now. Yet another adventure erupts, as the small-horned crew tries to step in and stop their non-stop bickering before it turns into full chaos. In a flashback, the girl sits in the guild and devours what happened. Fresh details about those recent attacks after the fallout. A guildswoman leans in with grim urgency and tells her the truth. A man named Jays was planning to sell her into slavery. An official lays it out straight. Gase's disgusting kidnapping attempt was a separate case from the other recent abductions. It's revealed that Gase got a full 6 months of hard labor for his cowardly crime. That one incident detonated into a massive scandal, slamming the Magic Guild headfirst into the city administration. She swears she doesn't care one bit. She just wants her compensation, plain and simple. A sign for the local inn snaps into view as she's finally heading back after her business is done. The innkeeper beams as she's welcomed back, then leans in and asks, are her business matters finally settled? She cozies up to her horse, nuzzling it like crazy, while grumbling about how her carriage's storage fee just drained her wallet. Purupi and Isa come back from their sightseeing trip, hauling home the supplies they need to build their brand new house. The girl's face softens into a warm, gentle smile as her two friends come rushing back. She flashes a warm smile and thanks Isa for all the hard work escorting his senior, Barapi. She snaps and declares, "All right, time to build the house I promised Paropi." Parop tells them straight up, spirits never sleep. They just settle in quiet spots like tree hollows and rest there. The girl finally gets it. She doesn't have to draw rigid lines between the inside and the outside anymore. With a fresh burst of clarity and iron resolve, she vows that she'll take charge of the construction herself. She springs into action, carving wooden panels with razor-sharp skill, locking every slot and tab together like a flawless puzzle. With a proud grin, she reveals the finished marvel, an entire modular house built from stacked wooden boxes. Purupi and Isa stare, eyes stretched wide, as she unveils her jaw-dropping creation. She shows that every single box is basically its own little room, ready to pop out and move anywhere. The wooden panels lock together like pieces of a puzzle, so when you stack them, they stay rock solid. She tells you the rooms can be rearranged however you feel, anytime you want. Purupia can't wait. He announces that he's heading inside the new house right now to check it out. He steps inside, wearing quiet curiosity like armor, but his eyes are buzzing with anticipation. Inside, it's a total surprise. Cozy, stylish, and packed with neat shelves and curtains that make the whole place feel lived in. Purupi sprawls on the tiny couch, totally blown away by how instantly it turns this place into pure cozy heaven. He gushes about her skill, then smugly declares it's exactly what he'd expect from a girl with dwarf blood. An elder spirit leans in and reveals the brutal truth. Once, dwarves were wiped out completely by the very spirits who claimed to love them. The girl's totally flustered, blurting out if her tiny height is really because of a blessing. Parupi snaps that her traits are all inherited, then turns around and offers to bestow her a blessing. She snatches it the second he assures her it won't mess with her size without her say-so. Parupi raises a tiny glowing plant and kicks off the ancient blessing ritual. A surge of unstoppable magic crashes over the girl the moment that blessing locks into place. Her magical power surges, blazing outward in a dazzling flash of pure light. Power surges through her, and she can practically feel her crafting skills leveling up in real time. To thank her for that amazing house, Parupi leans in and plants a soft kiss on her cheek. Then it hits him. This fountain pen was meant to be the gift for the house. He tells her, "Not yet. I'm stuck waiting on one specific material." Her eyes sparkle with pure excitement as she gets a glimpse of that special pen. While they're stuck waiting, Parupi leans in and asks if she can fix the bridge in the northern district. She agrees to investigate anyway, even as dread clings to her over the district's notorious reputation. The very next day, she rattles through the city streets in a horse-drawn carriage, watching everything rush past outside the window. She sits there calm as can be, cradling the invisible Parupi, while Isa balances on her shoulder like he owns the moment. Two young girls suddenly stop in their tracks, staring at Isa and gushing over that tiny white bird, calling it the cutest thing ever. The girl realizes they can spot Isa, but the spirit in her arms is totally invisible. Porop lunges ahead and steers her through the city's twisting streets, driving them straight toward their destination. They roll up to a stone bridge that curves over a narrow alley, wedged between two battered old buildings. She spots the place instantly, like she's already been here before from that earlier walk through the area. Purupi notices that both houses on either side of the bridge look totally deserted. A long-haired, stern-faced man strides up and fires off a demand, demanding to know what they're doing here. The girl blurts out that she was only staring at that old, crumbling bridge. The man points it out and calls it the Dancing Bridge, the ancient, mostly forgotten name that no one remembers anymore. He tells you that kids who can spot fairies might have been playing there back when those little folk were still around. The girl smiles calmly while the invisible Parupi blurts impatiently, "Hurry up." She tells me this. Some mysterious being has demanded she fix the bridge. The man steps forward, flashes his confidence, and says, "I'm Darrell, everyone here knows me and they respect me." He leans in and asks if she truly grasps how lawless the northern district really is. His face hardens in an instant, and it screams his ruthless doubt and the heavy weight of local authority. Fed up, Parupi snaps at Darrell, calling him a blockhead, and demands he hand over permission. Darrell snaps with rage at the disembodied voice, barking at it to shut up and stop its endless yapping. The girl clamps down on the invisible Parupi, trying to choke off his furious outburst before it blows everything apart. Panic hits, she hisses at Parupi to shut up, and without thinking, she reflexively throws him. Perupia's eyes go wide. She snaps, "What are you doing?" as he gets hurled through the air. Daryl is left totally stunned and completely speechless by her sudden, wild move. The girl fumbled through a nervous explanation. She was just trying to stop that certain being on pure instinct. Daryl snaps at a young girl for what she's done, and she just smirks and insists she's the smart one. His face tightens as he steps in to seal his decision on the whole situation. With a stern glare, he snaps his back to her and orders the young girl to follow him right now. He grabs her by the hand and hustles her down a tight alley, squeezed in by towering, stone giants on both sides. Hand in hand, they slip beneath a towering stone archway and push deeper into the district. Daryl leans in toward the unseen elders and declares, "A wildly strange guest just arrived." The elders stare at the kid like they've never seen her once, and they whisper that she's got to be some kind of outsider. Standing before the elders, Daryl boldly tells them she's determined to fix the crumbling dancing bridge. She tells them straight up that her tiny sidekick, Esau, desperately wants to see the bridge fixed. The lead elder grabs her attention and warns, "If they tear down that bridge, you can't rebuild a thing. Nothing will come back." Daryl says they can twist some twisted city law to kick the residents out. The girl's eyes widen in horror when she realizes the whole community could lose their homes. She grins and swears she'll fix the bridge with zero demolition. Nothing gets torn down. The elders doubt she can pull it off, but she shoots back that her special skill is real, and she's got this. Daryl reluctantly gives in and lets her take a shot at that brutal, difficult repair job. He refuses to look away, but she flips the script, then recruits him as her assistant on the spot. The town's residents huddle together, shouldering those brutal wooden planks like they're headed straight into a fight. With steel in her voice, she declares that the house repairs are finally starting now. Before she even catches her breath, she's already perched high on the ladder, fingers snapping into action as she starts the careful, detail-obsessed work. Daryl crouches on the rooftop, stunned as she moves with terrifying speed and flawless precision. She carefully jammed the broken bridge sections full of stones, sealing every crack tight. Then she slathers a special reinforcement material over the gaps and cracks, sealing every last one shut. So she cries out for Daryl to haul more stones down from the roof. She can't stop thinking about how her spirit friend's blessing sharpened her crafting skills and made every detail land perfectly. She drops to her knees and starts hustling, carefully sweeping away every last bit of loose old debris. She wastes no time, hammering in thick, sturdy handrails along the bridge's edge to keep herself safe. She digs jagged grooves into the walkway, clawing the surface so it won't turn slick and deadly. With the bridge locked in place, she decides it's time to roll up her sleeves and fix the house right next door. She repairs the shattered panes with dazzling rainbow hopper glass, rimmed in pure golden glow. She slyly carves a protective magical rune into the door. Looks like decoration, but it's really a shield. The stone bridge has been rebuilt from top to bottom, standing rock solid and beautifully repaired like it was never broken. As Daryl strides along the freshly repaired path, his jaw drops in pure disbelief. He blurts out in real shock, then can't stop gushing. Her work is seriously incredible. Isa, her spirit companion, blurts out of nowhere that it's time to get out, right now. The spirit leans in and reveals that his companion's already hauled in every piece of what he needs to keep his promise. As they vanish into the sky, she can't help but marvel at how quirky and totally unpredictable spirits can be. Daryl pushes her, saying she's wiped out and she needs to come eat with them. He waves off her need to clean up and gently tugs her along, right into the celebration. The whole community gathers as a mouth-watering feast is spread out on the table for everyone to dig in and share. Daryl lights up and spills to the other residents about her insane strength feats, like she can't believe she pulled it off herself. He fires back that she's got insane guts for showing up to the district alone, and she just smirks, dropping her trump card. Impressed, he learns she even handled a kidnapper solo, just recently. Her smile drops and suddenly her face hardens. 2 of the kidnappers are still out there and they've not been caught. Daryl steps in and confirms the district isn't united. Then someone digs up the elder's location. He slams the idea and calls aiding a kidnapper unforgivable, then promises he'll help search until they find them. Then he pushes a request through the system, dead set on getting her to repair even more houses. A local woman goes wide-eyed when she discovers she's been tagged as an adventurer, because apparently girls aren't allowed to be carpenters. The residents start grumbling that City Hall has zero warmth for outsiders. After the meal, she flashes a heartfelt goodbye to her brand new friends. Their kindness floods her with pure warmth and unstoppable happiness. She snaps the reins and rides out of the district in a plain, horse-drawn cart. The young adventurer can't help but notice. Out in the northern district, even the strangers are downright kind. A little kid nearby tugged at her mom's sleeve and begged her for candy. The kind woman thrusts a piece of candy into the adventurer's hand, like it's the start of something special. She grabs the sweet treat with pure joy, cheeks ballooning as she takes every delicious bite. With a glowing smile, she beams at the woman and offers her the candy, then pours out her heartfelt thanks. Suddenly, her vision smears into nothing, and the whole world around her starts to vanish. She jolts awake on a rough wooden floor, her head pounding and her mind totally lost. Her mind snaps back to that kind woman, handing her the sweet drug candy like it was nothing. The last thing she remembers is that battered image of a woman clutching her child. She snaps to the truth with pure terror. She's been kidnapped, and she swears it's the biggest growing-up nightmare she's ever faced. Panic and pure frustration hit her like a tidal wave as the darkness closes in. She steels her nerves, takes a deep breath, and decides she'll handle this mess herself. Lying on the cold floor, she starts to scan her dire situation with razor-sharp focus, like every second might be her last. She's crammed inside a busted shack that stinks like mold, definitely not a real room. A faint stink of wet earth drifts up, like the ground is buried right under those floorboards. As she hears the beasts in the distance, she clocks it instantly. Nobody's around right now. She's convinced she has to be hiding in some lone shack out in the forest just outside the city. She quickly scans her whole body and finally realizes she's totally unhurt. A wave of relief washes over her as she confirms that nothing inappropriate was done to her. She whispers to herself, "I'm going to be okay," forcing calm to lock in her chest. Her eyes whip around the room as she keeps up her sharp assessment. She discovers the dummy magical paper got stolen, but her real ones stay locked up and perfectly safe. The stash of papers she'd hidden in her hairpin and underwear was lucky, because they never got found. Her pouch and boots have vanished, but her magical papers are still mostly intact. She lets out a huge, shaking breath. Thankfully, her captors didn't lay a hand on her like that. With a heavy sigh, she swears she finally has everything she needs to break free. Her face sharpens with fresh grit. She locks in and knows, no matter what, she's going to be okay. First, she yanks those heavy wooden cuffs off her arms. She studies the wooden cuffs and fears they're hiding a trap, maybe a razor-thin wire waiting to snap. Clamped in those cuffs, she strains hard and starts forging a breakout plan in the heat of the moment. She slips a tiny, folded magical paper out of her sleeve with careful, practiced precision. She knows one wrong tear and that delicate paper is finished, dead, ruined, and useless. With a careful final adjustment, she checks it one more time and confirms the paper hasn't torn or split. She twists and contorts her body, dragging her bound hands up to her mouth like she's desperate to hide a scream. A burst of magical light erupts, and she finally slams the body enhancement spell into action. Born on raw magical power, she yanks against the wooden cuffs with everything she's got. With a deafening crack, the restraints finally snap apart, and her hands burst free. Then she rips the thick ropes off her feet like they're nothing. She pushes herself up, catching her breath as she steadies her nerves after finally tearing free. She spots the cuffs have no trap, and realizes the spell wasn't even truly needed. She decides right now is not the moment to hold back. She's going all in with her resources. She snaps an absolute barrier into place the second danger strikes, shutting down any sneak attack before it can land. She slips an attack spell into an easy pocket, ready to unleash a brutal counter the second it's needed. Her bare feet slid over the cold, rough floorboards inside the shack. She expertly laces a rope around her feet to lock in a killer grip. She inches out from behind the shack's wooden door and peeks around like she's scared of what's waiting out there. She darts outside, sees nobody, yet she knows she has to get out fast. In case things go sideways, she slaps a magical paper down to pinpoint exactly where the kidnapper is. The spell doesn't just spill 7 kidnappers. It also exposes 3 tiny children dragged right along with them. Her eyes bulge as the truth hits. Those tiny figures aren't just strangers, they're the kidnapped kids. She weighs the terrifying odds of taking on 7 people, especially if one of them might be a mage. She snaps that she won't run, because if she slips away, those kidnappers might shift the children right into danger. With steel-eyed grit, she swallows her fear and accepts the brutal truth. There's no other option. Her tiny hand clenches into a fierce fist, and you can practically see her resolve harden in real time. She spins on her heel and swears the kidnappers will rue the day they dared to take her. Her investigation drives her straight to a cave mouth, locked down by a lone man sitting guard. Peeking from behind the bushes, she fires up a magical scan ability. A mental map flashes, There are 6 kidnappers packed in back there with the kids trapped in the room. The lone guard sits cross-legged, blissfully unaware as danger closes in like a shadow. She snaps her fingers and slips a spell over the guard, sending him straight into a deep magic sleep. A silent bolt of magic streaks toward the guard's head, and he doesn't even feel it coming. The spell slams into him, and in the last heartbeat his eyes fly wide. He collapses forward, fully knocked out cold from the magical assault. From her hiding spot, she peeks out, then spots the clean hit and lets out a shaky breath of pure relief. She stares at the memories, realizing just how relentless the training had to be to unleash a long-range spell like that. With the first obstacle smashed, she steps up and gears up to dive into the cave. She hurls a stealth spell on herself, making sure the kids stay safe. She clamps down on her breath and pushes ahead, dead silent, eyes locked in pure, unshakable determination. Inside the kidnappers' group, they're laughing and sipping drinks, totally clueless to what's coming next. She slips through that loud crowd like a ghost, totally invisible, like nobody even sees her. Slipping to the cave's back, she blurts in her head, "I've found them." 3 little kids huddle shoulder to shoulder, tossing and turning as they sleep fitfully under a flimsy blanket. She slams down a full-room, absolute protective barrier and seals the whole space with soundproof magic. With the kids safely secured, she lets out a confident breath. This has to hold for now. The sleeping kids lie there, their faces carved with pure exhaustion and fear. She swears to the kids, under her breath, that she'll pull them out of there soon. As she squares up to the kidnappers again, she clenches her teeth and prays her next magical attack finally hits and tears through their plans. She clenches the magical paper in her fist, pouring her will straight into the spell like it's about to ignite. A blinding flash detonates the moment she casts her knockout spell. The men crumple into a heap, and their wild revelry gets cut off on the spot. Her eyes flew wide, relief crashing in, while pure shock rippled across her face as she nailed it. To make sure she's got this, she reaches for a restraint spell and snaps a rope into place. She towers over the pile of unconscious men, making sure every last one of them stays completely subdued. A warm, radiant smile blooms across her face as she thanks Witch Sama for teaching her rope work. A quick glance seals it. Her pouch is safe, but her boots are gone. She snaps her eyes to a wooden cart nearby and knows it's the perfect ride to haul the children. She slips into the room and coaxes the groggy kids awake, whispering that it's finally time to go. She tells them the bad guys are already tied up, so they can sprint home right now. With a warm smile, she vows to bring everyone back safely, together. Hope flares back into their eyes as the kids finally nod and agree to go with her. She fires off orders for everyone to pile onto the card, because they're about to blast off. A cold jolt slams into her, and panic flashes across her face. Her eyes snap open wide as her instincts howl, warning her that something is seriously, terribly wrong. She snaps at the kids to freeze, sensing something wrong lurking just outside. She tiptoes toward the cave's mouth, holding her breath as she creeps in to investigate. Peeking from behind that rock wall, her face tightens with pure dread. A monstrous red ape looms right outside, while a second one crouches in the shadows right behind it. She remembers those ruthless monsters don't roam alone. They hunt in packs, dragging in even more beasts with them. Realizing she can't slip away unnoticed with the kids in tow, she freezes and starts scrambling, thinking, "What do I do now?" Panic snaps into place when she realizes her protective barrier is moments from giving out. She snaps into action, yanks the special ribbon from her hair, and swears this is her final shot. The ribbon snaps open, and a huge, mind-bending sheet of magical paper unfurls before their eyes. That untested, high-level attack spell is the only thing standing between her and death. Swearing she'll end it all in one shot, she hurls the terrifying hellfire spell like a blazing cannon. A colossal storm of dark, destructive power suddenly blasts out of the spell, ripping the air apart. A thunderous maelstrom blasts through the forest, smashing everything in its path with pure, overwhelming fury. A raging torrent of power crashes through everything, burning the earth to the ground as it goes. That destructive energy keeps charging forward, ripping through everything in its path and leaving nothing but annihilation behind. Standing in the wreckage, she's frozen, like she has no clue what she's supposed to do next. Staring at the burned-out wasteland, she couldn't help but wonder if she'd gone way too far. Panic crashes through her the moment she realizes her enhancement magic is slipping away. Straining under the weight, she drags the heavy cart and reassures the scared kids. "I'm okay," she insists, right through their worry. She bolts through the dark forest, yanking the kids along with all her strength. From out of the darkness, a brand new threat crawls into view, monstrous rodents with eyes blazing like living fire. Her eyes snap wide with pure terror as she realizes the newcomers aren't visitors at all. They're monsters. She fires off a brutal combo of wind and fire magic, and it hits like a thunderclap. She hushes the awestruck kids on the spot, warning them that even a little noise could summon the red apes. Her bare feet slam against the rocky, root-choked ground as she runs for her life. All she can think about is bursting out of that choking, oppressive darkness in the forest, now before it swallows her whole. As her support magic flickers out, she can already feel the brutal backlash barreling toward her. A brutal wave of pain crashes through her, draining every last bit of strength in seconds. The kids stare in horror as their protector's grip starts to slip, and the fear keeps climbing. Even with the backlash closing in, she throws caution aside and fires off one final body-enhancing spell. With grim grit, she slams the brakes on the future pain and chooses survival, right now. At last, towering protective walls of the city loom on the horizon. Her exhausted face cracks into pure relief, like a weight finally slips off her chest. Her eyes lock onto her trusty, beloved horse, Peru-chan, still waiting there like it's always been for her. A surge of gratitude hits her the moment she sees everyone safely gathered together. With her mission finally wrapped up, the very last spark of her strength snaps and she collapses. A little girl yells her name, and before anyone can react, she drops to the ground with a sharp burst of panic and alarms.